You ready? Good morning, everyone. If you please have a seat, we'll get started. On behalf of the BAC and the WDBA, we welcome everybody here today. Thank you for coming. Today, in addition to attendees who are with us in person, we welcome attendees joining us via Zoom. For our Zoom attendees, if you have a question, you can either raise your hand or type your question in the chat. When you raise your hand, we will give you permission to unmute so that you can ask your question. That will be for the Zoom members. Would you all rise, please, and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. We wish to acknowledge the traditional territories of the Nipissing Indian tribe, the Lumi Nation, Samish Indian Nation, Sockswaddle, the Indian tribe, Stillaguamish tribe of Indians, Swinomish Indian tribal community, the Tulalip tribes, the Upper Skagit Indian tribe, and other native peoples who have lived and continue to live in this region along the Salish Sea. This region was historically a center for trade and exchange among many tribes, and we pay respect to elders past and present, and to all native peoples who continue to steward the land and live among us. Are there any representatives from any of those tribes here today? Thank you. I would now like to introduce our VAC and LEVAC members. The VAC is the Governor's Veterans Affairs Advisory Committee. It's an appointed committee by the governor. We're all volunteers. And the WEVAC is also a committee who supports women veterans throughout Washington and their volunteer members. I'd like to introduce Bob Wallace. He's a VAC member.
Hey, Bob.
John Vernon. John, tell him who else you represent, please.
Oh, my better services.
Thank you, sir. Miss Kat Nichols. There she is back there. Who else? Who also do you represent? Thank you so much. Lavon Anderson.
She is actually in the other room helping some women veterans.
Okay, thank you.
Same with
Sharon Bruner. Rowe.
she is also over assisting.
You're AWOL.
I'm here as a referee.
Okay, thank you. And Crystal Shinbine. That would be you. Thank you so much. The VAC's very important. They're the ones helping put on this town hall meeting. We travel to 4 different locations annually. This is our second town hall on the west side, and we head east for the remainder of the year. So again, thank you all very much. My name is Ron Black, and I'm the chair for the VAC committee. At this time, I would like to introduce to you, most of you know him. He's a wonderful person, and he has a veteran's heart, honestly. And we'll our director, or WDBA, David Fuente.
Good morning, everyone. How's everybody doing today?
Good.
Yeah. All right. All right, Ron, you're safe.
I'm good. I was glad that's off camera.
It probably was. Hopefully it is for you. You're safe. Although I'll remember that one. That was good. I just want to say thank you very much for allowing your WDBA in the back and the way back to come out and meet with the community. For me, as Ron stated, I'm the director and I'm also a U.S. Army veteran. So as I get started with this, I guess for me it's just great to be here. When I'm driving in to see the scenery and just to see where we're at. The sun was great to be out yesterday. And then to be surrounded by community members and leaders that really have a passion for this. I just want to say thank you. So as I get started, I want to say thank you to Doug Light, the American Legion Post Commander, for your hospitality and providing the much needed coffee. So that's a good thing for all of us. We've only been here a very few short days, and it's clear that the community is united in support of veterans and families and our veteran programs. Your WDBA, along with the Veterans Affairs Advisory Committee and Women's Veterans Advisory Committee, hold these meetings throughout the state so that we can spend some time so that we can get to know the community and to kind of figure out how the community ticks in an effort to continue to build stronger relationships across the state. We want to hear what's working well, learn and try to identify those gaps, and truly to listen, because I think that's the number one important for us, to come out and listen to what your community needs are. We also want to get a better understanding of the issues facing your community. Then we can work together to address things at a state level, and then also as we continue to work with our federal VA partners as well. This week, we had the opportunity to meet some of the amazing providers on the island that really truly make a difference for veterans and families each and every day. So we had an opportunity on Monday to visit Whidbey Veteran Resource Center. Dana, thank you. And then yesterday we met with 3 organizations. So the Transition Assistance Program at Naval Air Station, Whidbey Island. If I remember correctly, it was Rick, Bill, and Virginia. Great group of folks, and we've really learned a lot to what the Navy is doing, the DoD, for our transitioning service members and how we can partner better together. Also had the opportunity to go meet with Island County Veteran Services. We met with Tyler and Zach. So again, we got to meet with the local county VSO organization to see what they're doing and their needs, and kind of looking at the numbers and the workload that's going on now with our veterans that are transitioning and the great work that Zach and Tyler are doing. We also ended the day with an organization with the Opportunity Council. Learned a lot of what that organization does and the amount of work that they're spending and time in the veteran space. And then lastly, we crashed the Pacific Northwest Vets meeting. So it's an organization that was established by veterans and Josh Wilden as well, that gives us the opportunity and time to come together and just chat. You know, we all love to tell war stories, right? See which one's better and share. We can commensurate, and I thought it was a great opportunity for us to sit down and chat with the community and our brothers and sisters. These veterans organizations were created by your community leaders to meet specific needs for veterans and families that live here in your area. We are grateful for the opportunity to connect with you and for the chance to identify how we as a state can be better partners. One of the things we often hear when we hold these at town halls is that we need to be present and keep making connections with veterans and community leaders, which is what we're trying to do today. I mentioned to Tyler and Zach as Island County Veteran Services that I will be reaching out to the County Veterans Advisory Board so that I can meet with them and share what's going on at your WDBA, and also share some best practices with the commissioners so that they can understand what other counties are doing throughout the state that may be able to help, or at the same time learn to what the county here is doing where we can take these best practices throughout the state. Before I turn it over to Solomon, our deputy, I want to provide a quick update on legislative session and budget process. At this time, we still haven't seen a budget that has been agreed upon by the House, Senate, and the governor. We know that the House budget has some pretty significant cuts to our agency, The Senate is a little bit better, and the governor budgets makes the fewest cuts. It's likely the final budget will somewhere be in the middle of those three. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed. Over the session, we visited with dozens of legislators and shared some of the incredible outcomes our agency and networks of partners have done over the last year. Our goal was to make sure our legislators know how these cuts would impact the services that we provide throughout the state to our veterans and their family members and transitioning service members. I also know that our VAC, WeVAC, and our another partner, Veterans Legislative Coalition, has really been the voice and sharing our concerns with the House, Senate, and the governor's office as well. As soon as we have details on what's in the final budget, we will share that on our website and provide updates. So I guess that's a little pitch, though. If you're not on our distribution list, let's do that so that you can get that release as soon as we share that information out. As far as legislation goes, there are a few bills that have made it through so far. So House Bill 1102 modifies the County Veteran Service Officer Program because the bill had a cost to it, to the state. Most of these changes are going to be delayed until 2028. There was funding in the House budget for an additional county veteran service officer in Highland County. However, we don't know if it's going to make it all the way through the legislative session, but it's still being considered. House Bill 1106 modifies eligibility for property tax exemptions by reducing the disability rate from 80% to 40%. This does not change the income threshold, so people still have to meet the income thresholds. But now a veteran who's 62 can qualify if they are 40% service connected or more. Senate Bill 5200 allows the federal VA to operate veteran medical foster homes in our state. This bill was signed by the governor yesterday, so we're excited to see how Dr. Bunt and his team and Dr. Fisher out of Spokane as well are going to implement this program statewide. There are a few other bills that are on the handouts at the back of the room, so if you're interested in hearing more about what's going on in session, bills that impact veterans and their families, the information is in the back of the room. When it comes to changes you're hearing about at the federal VA, so far we have not seen any impacts to grants and funding we receive at your WDVA. This is something we're paying very close attention to because a significant portion of our funding does come from federal VA. Similar to the state budget, as we learn more, we will share that information with you in newsletters, emails, and social media as well. Finally, I just want to say I appreciate being here, taking the time to learn more about what's going on in your community and programs that are available here. I'd like to turn it over now to our deputy, Solomon, so he can provide his portion of the update.
All right, thank you, David. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Man, I didn't realize the room filled up. I have my back to everyone. It's crowded now. Awesome. So I want to take the chance to introduce myself. So I'm Solomon Gilbert. I'm the Deputy Director at Bureau Washington Department of Veterans Affairs. I'm a U.S. Army retiree, military spouse, and you know, it's being and serving our country is a part of our family. So what I want to talk about today is a little bit on updates. So we have one of the largest variety of programs of any states in the nation here at WDVA. One of the reasons for that, we're always thinking strategically about how to best direct the resources provided to us by the state legislature, as David pointed out. Within our agency, we have 4 specific goals that help guide and direct our work. So I'll name those 4. They're part of our strategic plan: to save and transform lives, respect, empower, and inspire everyone, be the leading state in veteran service delivery and outcomes, and operating effectively and efficiently. We're proud to share that our network of veteran service officers doubled the number of claims they filed over the last 2 years. They're doing incredible work by connecting veterans and families to their earned benefits. Right now, 30% of Washington's veterans are in receipt of their VA disability compensation and pension. Our goal is to get to 33% by 2026. This is possible thanks to the incredible work of our county veteran service officers like Zach in the room, our tribal veterans representatives, our WDVA benefits specialists, and the contracts that we have with veteran service organizations like the VFW and others. Last week, I traveled to the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation to sign our 9th agreement with the tribe. This particular agreement is both unique that both Washington and Oregon veterans can now be served by this tribal veteran officer. These agreements are important to ensure that the Native American veterans have access to accredited service officers who can help them get connected to their earned benefits. Some of the agreements serving Native American veterans in the Northwest Washington are with the Nooksack, Akah, Tulalip, and Squamish tribes. Another point, our transitional housing program can serve up to 135 veterans at one time across 2 locations, provide wraparound services that help the veterans get back on track. You will hear more about this program from Leland in a few minutes, but I wanted to be sure to let you know that even though the programs are located in Pierce and Kitsap counties, we accept veterans from anywhere in the state who wish to participate. Through our suicide prevention efforts, we have a goal to reduce suicide among veterans, service members, and their families. One of my asks of you today is to take us up on the offer of bringing the suicide prevention tools and training to your community and to your organizations. Don Cease from our suicide prevention program is here today and will share more later in the program about the training services we can offer. These services will bring directly to you wherever you're at in the state and provided for your teams, workers, or individuals. In the future, we hope to bring a state veteran cemetery to the Northwest Washington to serve veterans in Island, Snohomish, San Juan, and Whatcom counties. We know this is a huge need and have begun talking to the federal state VA grants and per diem program about a cemetery there in the Southeast Washington and around Tri-City. So that's our latest project there, and also a replacement nursing home in the Spokane area. So we're staying busy to support veterans in Washington, but I want to thank you for your time this morning, and I hope you enjoyed the program, and I'll turn the mic back over. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. I'd like at this time to introduce, he's here, I guess, Jeremy Harrison Smith. He is Governor Ferguson's regional representative. Or yeah, there you are. Thanks for coming. I'd like to introduce now for the PACDAT. Is it Jamil? Is that correct? Jamal, correct? Come on up, sir. He's a benefits specialist. They do really great work, hard work, and we appreciate all of our people who serve our veterans to help them get through.
It's Leland, that's next.
Oh, Leland.
Yeah.
Oh, Leland, you're up.
Yes.
Am I out of order?
I mean, look how much you look exactly like.
Oh, you are. I'm sorry. I'm pulling off 2 different things here. Mr. Leland, sir.
Thank you, everyone, for allowing us to be here today. My name is Leland Cooper. I'm the outreach coordinator with Washington State Department of Veterans Affairs. One of the things that our director mentioned was needing to be present. And through this role as outreach coordinator, we get to work with a lot of you in your communities to be present, to work with you, to work with the veterans in your community, to be able to be that consistent piece of Washington State Department of Veterans Affairs. And so being present, Okanagan, working their outreach event, their stand down, working this gadget, stand down through Chris. Thanks again for that invitation. Learn a lot, getting to work with the community. Being here for Island County, to be able to work their stand down and to bring our resources here to Island County. So thank you for allowing us to be present and allowing us to be that piece to your community. So what we'll do today is we're going to cover a little bit about WDVA, our programs and services, and what we do as an agency So it's not a lot, it's just a little piece of what we do. We definitely have brochures and information in the back. So please make sure you leave with some information, something to take home with you, whether it be for yourself, your family member, your loved ones. Make sure you take something home with you today. So we have 5 major programs and services under WDBA: our state veterans homes, our transitional housing program, our state veteran cemetery, our veteran services, and our counseling and wellness. For our state veterans homes, we have 4 located throughout the state: our Spokane Veterans Home, our Soldiers Home in Orting, our Veterans Home in Port Orchard. Normally they call it Retzel, but it's Veterans Home in Port Orchard, and then our Walla Walla Veterans Homes. So for the 2 facilities, Port Orchard and Walla Walla, we have a memory care unit provided there. So if there's your loved one that needs that extra level of care, those 2 facilities provide that additional level of care. And for keynote for the homes, veterans rated 70 through 100% may have their service, or excuse me, veterans rated 70 through 100% service connected, or whose service connected disability is the reason nursing home care is needed, as part may have their nursing home care paid for by the federal VA. So that's a big part. We'll go into our transitional housing program. So we have 2 locations. The one is in Port Orchard and another one is in Orting. And so there's a couple of different types of models for those facilities. The Port Orchard location has 48 beds, and the Roosevelt Barracks / Betsy Ross has capacity for up to 82 beds. Betsy Ross is an all-female building, and the Roosevelt Barracks is a mixed model. So on the site, they do a lot of wraparound services. We have a fishing pond on site. They do fishing derbies. We have a tiny home that's on site as well. They have a chapel, but it's more so we even brought in one of our counselors to be able to fill that need for the veterans. So it's a lot of wraparound service to be able to meet the needs of those veterans in the veteran community. For our state veteran cemetery, they're located in the Medical Lake. The state veteran cemetery provides for in-ground casket burial sites and cremation interments, columbarium niches, in-ground cremation, interment, and a scattering garden. Eligibility mirrors that of the United States Department of Veterans Affairs Cemetery. So a lot of what you'll hear is in addition to what the federal VA has, what the local area has. This isn't in competition, this is in addition to what these agencies provide. So our cemetery is in addition to what the federal VA has to offer. And the key part on that I wanted to touch on, the Armed Forces license plates help support the state veteran cemetery. $28 for the purchase and renewal of Armed Forces license plates is tax deductible and helps pay for the maintenance and operation of the Washington State Veteran Cemetery. If you have not seen that cemetery, I recommend stopping by, saying hello. Rudy Lopez is phenomenal at what he does and keeping the grounds beautiful. So please stop by if you're in that area to say hello. For our veteran services, we offer claims assistance through veteran service officers. We have our Olympia Service Center, our Lacey Veterans Hub, and we contract with 5 veteran service organizations: African American PTSD Association, American Legion, National Association for Black Veterans, Vietnam Veterans of Foreign Wars, and Vietnam Veterans of America. 23 county service officer agreements with 28 out of 39 counties being served. We also have memorandums of agreements with 9 out of the 29 federally recognized Indian tribes to provide VSO training and accreditation to their tribal VSOs. And as was previously mentioned, our Allen County VSO, Zach Comment, the Veteran Service Officer. So if you are not familiar, I believe Zach is in attendance today. And so please, if you're interested in getting a claim filed, please connect with your local Veteran Service Officer for that claims assistance. We also have Jamiel here from the federal VA, who's also here to be able to provide that assistance on a federal level. So again, trying to make sure we have the state, the county, the local, all of those represented as far as for claims assistance. Veteran services continue. We have our Veterans Innovations Program. The Veterans Innovations Program was created to provide assistance to veterans facing financial hardship who served on or after September 11, 2001. Our Transitional Warrior Program provides information about all available benefits to separate personnel from joint base military support, So they work with the active duty service members to do things such as a benefits delivery discharge. So veterans, when they get out of service, they already have their ED-214, they already have their benefits rolling, so they don't need to take that additional step of actually filing a claim with the VA. So they can take care of the things like moving their family, like focusing on employment, like focusing on education. And so we do a lot of just making sure the service members are aware of their benefits, knowing what's available to them on a federal level, a state level, a local level, but also getting them connected to their benefits while they're in service so they can get out and focus on other areas. Our Veterans Estate Management Program, VEM, offers protected paid services for veterans and family members who are incapable of managing their own financial affairs. So that's something we deal with a lot with the veteran community. Veteran gets a letter from the VA saying, hey, you can't manage your own financial affairs. We are going to establish a payee for you. We have that service. Whether it be Social Security, we have that service where we can assist with the managing of their financial affairs. So that's a good program that we have that works out of our Olympia Service Center. LGBTQ+, Veterans Outreach Coordinator, that's Robin Lane. She does very good in meeting veterans where they are in your local community to make sure that you're connected to the benefits that you earn from the service. So she connects LGBTQ+ veterans to benefits and assists with the upgrade of discharge status, which is big, making sure that the veteran's discharge is where it should be and make sure that they, again, they're eligible and they're entitled to the benefits that they earn. So for other WDVA programs, we have our call center and our service hub. We have our Spokane Regional Veterans Service Center, the VA Regional Office in Seattle, and again, just helping veterans get connected to the benefits that they earn. For our WDVA counseling program, our unique no-cost clinical outpatient program provides confidential counseling services to people who have served in the United States military and their family members. So again, this program is for free for veterans. So it's a free program. So if you're trying to get into the VA healthcare system, if you're trying to get into a vet center, if you're trying to get connected to mental health services, this is in addition to what's out there and what's available. So don't feel like you have to choose one or the other. If you go to the VA hospital and it takes 6 months to get in, 3 months to get in, that's fine. Slightly pivot, connect with WDVA's counselors for free, get that level of care while you need it the most, and then slowly transition to other benefits or other services. When one door closes, another door can't open. And just being aware of those benefits and services goes a long way. For our Veterans Training Support Center, the VTSC provides veteran-related workshops for organizations to better serve veterans and their family members. The Veteran Training Support Center offers this expertise at, again, no cost. So that's a big part of what we do. Eliminating those barriers. Cost can often be a barrier. So just being able to eliminate that barrier of that financial concern goes a long way. Our Brain Injury and Recovery Program, TBI, WDVA Brain Injury and Recovery Program supports and represents every veteran in Washington State who has incurred a brain injury or is experiencing symptoms of brain injury. So if you have a loved one, a family member that is dealing with that, please stop back at the back table. We have case managers that work directly hand in hand with the veterans and the veteran community. Another program under our counseling and wellness is our Vet Corps. Through training and peer-to-peer support, Vet Corps members support student veterans, veterans in the community, and military families by building on shared experiences and creating supportive relationships. Our Veterans Conservation Corps provides opportunities for veterans to connect with nature in their own way while restoring and cultivating Washington's natural resources. Another way that I got this from another veteran is dirt therapy. The program is very big and instrumental for the veterans on a transitional housing program. They get to go there, walk the farm, work the farm, and to be able to work with their own hands. It's the ability to get away. So very good program. I've seen it at work and it's very instrumental for the veterans. Our Veterans Farm and Boarding, back on the farm, offers a place where veterans can lease from a farmland, attend classes, volunteer, and generally support a growing community. So if you're in that boarding area, please stop by. Carrie Little is amazing at what she does. And it's just a great opportunity to just walk the farm, see what WDVA is doing in that community, for that community. Our tobacco cessation program helps connect veterans and military families to resources that help decrease tobacco dependence, increase cessation efforts, and support for staying stopped. And so Paul Casey is a case manager for that program. He's very big on meeting veterans where they are. And so if there's an event here in Highland County that you're saying, you know what, that sounds like an excellent resource, Would he be able to come out here maybe to help out with our stand down or resource fair? Contact us, contact me. Our contact information is gonna be on the screen at the end. I'll be able to provide my cards at the back, but if that's a resource that you want to be able to bring over to your community, let's make that happen. Let's make that. So I'm not gonna go too far into our suicide prevention and support program. Don C's will cover that in just a moment here, but I will say that they are regionally located to provide community workshops, collaboration with regional agencies and organizations serving veterans and resources. And again, Don will cover their program and what they do in more detail. So we have two parts to our suicide prevention. Another program that we have is our VA Staff Sergeant Fox Suicide Prevention Grant. And so the program seeks to aid service members, veterans, and their families with upstream suicide prevention and intervention, outreach and education on suicide prevention, peer support, and wraparound services available through the state, peer support, case management to those veterans enrolled in the program, the equipment and service fund for alternative behavioral health services, and lastly, referrals and work handouts. For our transition readiness and family services, we have our Washington State Military Transition and Readiness Council. We also have our military spouse initiatives, policy and program advocacy for military spouses, deployment, credential portability, child care, etc. They share resources and provide individual consultation. So one of the things that we heard from the, make sure I get this right, the Whitby base, it is Charles and Rick and Shelby, was that there's a lot of issues that are faced, the military members are facing. You know, some of those issues that I just brought up with the deployment, credential portability, child care, etc. And so Olivia does a great job of being able to understand those issues, be able to bring those issues up to the forefront, work with legislators, be able to address those issues. You know, those issues need to be addressed. And the more we can understand them and bring them up to the policymakers for those active duty service members, the better. And so, you know, although it wasn't good, it was clearly reinforced through our town halls yesterday, through our community visits yesterday, that this is a need for that active duty service member community. For our apprenticeships program, we assist veterans in connecting with registered apprenticeships and other career connected learning. And then for our veteran-owned business program, recruits and enrolls veterans and service members in veteran-owned business certification and linked deposit programs. And so Crystal Scheinbaum, I believe, will be covering the Women Veteran Program through the WEAVE Act. So we won't definitely go into Shinbine. But Crystal will be up to talk more about the WEAVE Act and what they do for women veterans. So just wanted to quickly discuss some of the other state benefits. So you got your award letter, your Service Connect, 20%, 10%, 100%. Now what I'm eligible for Washington State benefits. These are benefits that are exclusive to Washington State. So if you go to Texas, if you go to California, you might find some different benefits that a veteran may be eligible for that state. These are just specific to Washington State veterans. So reduced fishing hunting license, 30% service connected, state parks pass, 30%, federal parks pass, all veterans. Reduced public transportation fees, 40%. So if you're on a ferry trying to get across there, Service Connect helps reduce some of those costs for the ferry. We have the long-term care exemption, 70%. You're receiving your 70% disability compensation, and they're taking that part out of your paycheck to be able to have your award letter or have that letter saying that you're 70%. Now they'll stop taking out that long-term care exemption from your paycheck. Reduced tuition at public colleges and universities. Free license plates for 100% disabled veterans and Gold Star spouses and parents. This also includes individual unemployability. Reduced property taxes. And for this one here, like was previously mentioned, contact the county assessor for more information because there is an income component to this that you want to make sure that you address. And recording of discharges. We have a DD-214 database, and we send a governor's welcome home letter to veterans that are discharging from the service. And then the county Veterans Assistance Fund. And so, like we mentioned, either county veteran services, they assist with the county assistance fund. And so, just wanted to quickly touch on the definition of a veteran, and that was the recent change. So, state definition of a veteran, expanding state veterans benefits to any veteran who is already eligible for Federal Department of Veteran Affairs monetary benefits. So that's one piece. The second piece to that creates eligibility for state benefits for veterans who were separated with less than honorable characterizations of service due solely to sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expressions, or actions or statements related to sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression, regardless of characterization of service. And so you'll notice that some of our programs that we have for WDVA, we changed that definition. So you'll see on our brochures, if you have any of the, if you're a service provider, you have any of those old brochures, please make sure to comb through those, because the definition has changed and the eligibility for some of our programs, like our skilled nursing facility, has changed. Like the license plate has changed. So if you have those brochures, make sure to discard those brochures. We have brochures in the back. If you need brochures, we can get those brochures to you, but please make sure that you have the accurate and most updated information. So the most simply put, if a veteran is service connected and he has that award letter and he doesn't necessarily have that character discharge for that program eligibility, now they can go with that service connected letter. So that's a big part in the change of the definition. And then contact the WDVA. And so here's our contact information, the number to our service center, our veterans homes, our veterans service center, our cemetery, and our transition housing program. You can also scan the QR code and it'll bring you to our WDVA site with more information on how to get connected to the program and services that we're discussing today. So I'm not going to steal too much of Jamal's thunder, but I did want to quickly just cover the PACT Act. What is the PACT Act? So Sergeant First Class Health Keith Robinson, honoring our promise to address comprehensive toxins, PACT Act. The PACT Act is a new law that expands VA health care and benefits for veterans exposed to burn pits and other toxic substances. The act expands and extends eligibility for VA health care for veterans with toxic exposures and veterans of the Vietnam era, Gulf War era, and post 9/11 era. And also expands eligibility for veterans exposed to toxic substances. Some of the key components of the PACT Act: it adds more presumptive exposure locations for Agent Orange radiation. It expands and extends eligibility for VA health care for veterans with toxic exposure and veterans of Vietnam, Gulf War, and post 9/11 eras. Requires VA to provide a toxic exposure screening to every veteran enrolled in the VA healthcare system, and has 20 more presumptive conditions for burn pits, Agent Orange, and other toxic exposures. Some of those presumptions of exposure, some of the locations, we have Afghanistan, Egypt, Jordan, Syria, and on or after August 2nd, 1990, any of these locations, Bahrain, Iraq, Kuwait, Oman, and the airspace above any of these locations. So if you were in any of those locations and you have any of the service-connected conditions, any of the presumption, and the difference between a service-connected and a presumption is it's presumed that if you were in those areas and if you have a condition on that list, then the VA will take your claim and be able to process that claim. And so some of the presumptive conditions that we're looking at, you have some conditions such as brain cancer, kidney cancer, melanoma, neck cancer of any type, pancreatic cancer, asthma that was diagnosed after service, and so on. There's a lot of conditions on that list. So if any of these conditions ring true to anyone in this room, please make sure that you connect with the veteran service officer. And so that brings us to the next slide of filing claims. Veterans can file a claim for the new presumptive conditions. The main part on that is get connected to a VSO. You don't necessarily need to remember anything else outside of getting connected to a veteran service officer. File a claim. If you believe that you're eligible, even if it's not on the presumptive list, and you believe that you're eligible, you've been exposed to a condition, connect with the service officer. Put the ball in VA's court. Just make sure that you get connected. There's a new claim. Veterans never filed a claim for a presumptive condition or a supplemental claim. The presumptive condition was previously denied, but now is considered to be presumptive. This is big for the veterans that were exposed to their family members and loved ones. When the veteran passed away, those benefits stop. For your spouse, the last thing you want to do is to have them fighting the battle through the VA system and establishing a new claim and getting that process started. Get the claim going, have your benefits, so it makes it easier for your spouse to be able to get connected to their benefits. And so Again, just wanted to say thank you for allowing us to be here in your community. We've learned a lot through the community visits, and we look forward to supporting your community in the future.
Now, PACT Act, community claims process. Jamal Lee, come on up. Here you are.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Jemiel Koritz. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be following Leland for once. This is the opposite of our usual order. I work for the Department of Veterans Affairs today, and I wanted to introduce myself. The Department of Veterans Affairs is a massive government organization that provides veterans with billions of dollars of benefits every year. And most of you are with veteran service organizations that help veterans get access to those benefits. I want to take just a minute and tell you a little bit about the VA here in Washington State. The Department of Veterans Affairs is divided into three big organizations. The Veterans Health Administration runs medicine for veterans. They run hospitals in Seattle and Tacoma. They run clinics in Oak Harbor and Mount Vernon. They run something called vet centers, which are centers that offer counseling and additional services. The closest of those is here in Seattle. We also run the National Cemetery Administration. This is the part of the American government that runs cemeteries that commemorate veterans. There's 5 here in the state of Washington. The closest is in Port Townsend, but the closest that's currently conducting burials is in Tacoma. I was very impressed to hear we might be adding another cemetery. I hope that goes really well. I don't have much to tell you about these two parts of the VA. I can help give you directions to these clinics and tell you a little bit about eligibility for healthcare. And I've got a great booklet that contains all of the forms veterans need to access their burial benefits that a lot of people have filled out and stuck in a box somewhere. Please see me at that little laptop in the corner after class if you'd like copies of any of that. But mostly what I'm here to do today is spend a few minutes telling you about the VBA, the Veterans Benefits Administration. Here in the state of Washington, the Veterans Benefits Administration is the Seattle Regional Office, which employs several hundred people to help process claims and provide veterans with their benefits. And when it comes to actually meeting veterans in person, we're represented by the public contact team. That's me and 7 wonderful coworkers. Let me tell you a little bit more about VBA, what we do. Next slide, please. So some of the benefits you may have earned as a veteran, aside from healthcare, include education benefits, home loans, life insurance, and these two big groups, compensation and pension. Most of what we deal with veterans about is that very first item, their service-connected disability rating. That's a number between 1 and 100 that can be incredibly important to veterans in accessing their government benefits and determining which parks they can get into for free, or more importantly, what benefits they may have to stay healthy or to support their family. And while we provide a lot of those benefits, traditionally VA's been a little bit of a black box. Whole organizations have grown up that help veterans understand their benefits and apply for them. And frankly, those organizations are more necessary now than ever. In the entire state of Washington, the people at the VA who actually talk to veterans about their benefits and their claims, there's 7 of us. 5 of us in downtown Seattle, and Will and Doug in Spokane. We love our jobs and we try to put as much effort as we can into them. But for most veterans accessing these things, we'll start with finding help from a veteran service organization, like the one that runs this town hall. But we do have some options for veterans who want to speak to us directly. And on the next slide, I'd like to tell you a little bit about what those are. The public contact team that I'm a member of runs public offices in Seattle and Spokane. And veterans walk in there and ask us for a copy of their records or file claims on the spot. It's also the office if you're ever unfortunate enough to have a appeal hearing or a hearing with the Board of Veterans Appeals. You'll start ending up spending some more time in our offices. But that office is really far away. You can't just take the ferry there like you can if you're in Bremerton, where you hop off the ferry and walk 2 blocks and you're in our office. So we want you to have a way to contact the VA, and mostly that's done over the phone calls. Obviously, like every organization in the world, we have a 1-800 number where you can call in and get someone who has 6.5 minutes to answer your question. And if you need to change your address, please contact us that way. But my team will call out to veterans. We'll make appointments where we have a full 45 minutes to talk over their issues in detail. And that's 80% of my job. And 10% is meeting veterans in person. And the other 10%, my favorite 10%, is to do outreach. At an event like this, there's a government laptop over in the corner that is turned into our public contact office. I'll be here later than anyone else. So for those of you who want to check in on the status of your claim, please come visit that laptop. Also important, something we do at these outreach is we meet VSOs. We get to talk to VSOs. And before I slide off to tell you a little bit more about the PACT Act, I'd like to say something specifically for the VSOs here. If you have the training to get and the certification, which I think Terrell Flood does, to be a certified VSO, and you've been given access to VBMS, to our computers, please come see me, because another thing that my team has are these Microsoft Teams chats with VSOs all over the state. And we get messages that are 80%, hey, I don't have access to this veteran's file and I should. And 20% bringing to our attention some of the more complicated claims, issues, and questions. It's really useful and helpful to have VSOs to have a direct link to someone at VA that they can contact when they have issues. I know that Terrell and Leland and quite a few of VSOs all over the state already have a chat like that set up. So if you're VSO, please come shake my hand and make sure you've got a contact at the regional office in Seattle. And for veterans, you don't always have a VA out here, so please feel free to take advantage to come talk to me. I have a lot of little speeches I give. I'd like to give you one more about the PACT Act. I love following Leland because there's not much to add. That's a great presentation on the PACT Act. But I just want to remind veterans what the PACT Act is. So you know that when you claim a service-connected disability, if you say I have phakitis and it was caused by the military, you go to your local VSO, they help you with some complicated forms, and then VBA, the people I work for, send you to see a doctor who asks a whole bunch of questions about phakitis. How did the military cause it? What was it ever treated in the military? What specifically happened? Questions that we ask to determine if something was caused by the military. Well, the PACT Act doesn't increase the amount of compensation any veteran's eligible for. It doesn't even change the basic process. It just says that for a list of diseases, it's going to be a lot easier to get a claim filed, and it's going to be a lot easier to get something rated service connected. And if you've served in certain locations, your file with VA might already have a little flag on it that says what diseases are presumptive for you. So please feel free to visit my laptop and we'll pull your file up. And I can even give you a list of diseases to say, hey, if you ever get any of these diseases, it's because of your service to this country, and you'd be entitled to compensation. I have a lot of short speeches like that I'm happy to give to veterans. For those of you who organize events, please come see me so I can tell you how to get us out there. And for those of you who want to check in on your file, I'm going to be over there with a little laptop until there's nobody else who wants to see me. I really appreciate the chance to come out here. Was there anything else you guys wanted me to cover today? Awesome. Thank you very much for coming out. This is, don't tell anyone in Mount Vernon I said this, but this is the most beautiful town I've come out to do outreach in. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Up to tomorrow. Our next speaker, I'd like to welcome him up, is VA Puget Sound Healthcare System. Dr. Thomas Bunt, Executive Director. He follows us wherever we go and was grateful that he comes out and supports us town hall. Come on up, sir.
Appreciate it. Good morning to you all. How are you all doing today?
Good,
It's pretty awesome. We already had a women's health town hall, mini town hall discussion as well too from Heather Gautier Bell, who runs our outreach programs for that. So it's really great to be able to follow up in this session and have a lot of those same players who are available to come and attend this as well. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dr. Thomas Bunt. I'm the director of the VA Puget Sound Healthcare System. I am also what I would like to call a soldier for life, right? I spent a few minutes in the military, totaling about 32 years. So I do have some experiences in some of the pieces you're talking about. As I was counting the countries up there, it felt really bad. I've been to 7 of those, right? And I'm thinking, as a combat vet, you'd be hard pressed not to be at so many of those pieces, but I can tell you, I can definitely empathize, sympathize, and cooperate with several of the issues that we're having going on today. And hopefully I'll share some of those with you, and hopefully they'll make a little bit more sense as we expand on some of the topics of what PACT Act has meant on the ground to us, as well as some of the other changes afoot. I wanted to say first though, big thanks to the Veterans Affairs Advisory Committee, to you, Ron Black, and the members of the Washington State Department of Veterans Affairs, my battle buddy here, David, and the rest of the team are always very generous about inviting us out. We try to be all things, all people, if you will, in all places, as you can imagine. But I will admit to you, the trip out here was absolutely stunning, right? I don't usually get that. I got to turn my phone off. Yes, Peter, I turned my phone off. He's wondering why he's getting all the calls. That's why you're getting the calls, right? I turned my phone off. It's great, David. Thank you for letting me do that. I feel like I'm going to Canada. You know what I mean? I'm leaving things at home, but it was fantastic to come out. I haven't been out since I was a soldier and visiting on to Whidbey Island, Bangladesh there. She's working with those folks. But with me today, as already introduced, Heather Gautier Bell. She's the Women's Veterans Health Program Manager, but also our Suicide Prevention Director, Dr. Larry Pruitt. He's back there. He looks a lot like me. All right, you can't mess. We dress the same. He forgot his tie today. You know, I decided to give up, right? So I joined Larry, right, for that piece. Also with us today, I think we got Miss Connie George up here. She's from our Mount Vernon clinic. She's our administrator out there. She's our clinic manager. And on the phone, on the island also. Yeah. On the island also. That's awesome. And then we also have, I think, on the phone, right? Do we have Miss Christine Cochran? Is she out there? I don't see her on the chart up there, so I'm not sure we have her. We need to make sure we get her because she is our TRICARE healthcare regional director, so military and veterans services. She's the one that helps with claims and things like that, community care challenges, because she owns the network that supports and rounds us out as a healthcare platform. And I can explain a little bit to that piece later on. I want to share with you some timely and hopefully relevant information. And we'll also share with you our new patient guide, which I try to promote at every session we get to, because it is the first one in the history of VA Puget Sound, which has been on the Hill since the 1950s and American Lady since 1923. This is the first one. Yes, we're late. It takes 100 years to do a patient guide. I can make it in this world, right? You know, I can do it, right? This is an amazing tool. All seriousness, right? 52 pages of fabulous information that took 3 years to put together, because I've been beating on this drum for a while and my PA was fabulous. And she helped steer this along. We've got every service, every element, everything we do is in this guide. And it talks a little bit about each thing. It gives you maps, contact information, all that. It says 2024, right? but it's the first edition in truth. It is the very first one. And in a few years from now, we're hoping to be able to do a follow-up to it, but it is so thorough and so well done. I'm hoping to be able to keep this for time. But you all get a leave with a free gift today. We're gonna have a pamphlet for each and every one of you and a friend to take with you, and we'll leave some boxes here for the VFW too, right? We do that, Pete? Also, we have the 2024 healthcare benefits overview. And you know, strangely enough, so somebody must have drank our Kool-Aid or bugged my office. I've been suspicious of this for a while. This is also a first volume series of what the VA in general provides. So this is a very, very good instrument as well too. I think we got a box of about 100 or so with us. So everyone that came today will actually have one of these too. I'm telling you, these are sort of like the small Bible that you get from VBA when you get out of the service. They're the things you want to have. And it took a labor of love and quite a bit of personal funding set aside for our facility to make this happen. But I've got tons of them. So I want to make sure you people have these to take with you. For those of you who don't know, VA Puget Sound is a level 1A tertiary healthcare, academic, and research facility. Now that is a mouthful, right? In a nutshell, it means we're the biggest enterprise that exists in the VHA system, right? We're probably one of 10 of this particular size and scope. We do everything from specialized advanced care and cardiac surgery to cancer management, lung transplant services, and palliative care, and so much more. We serve now over 160,000 registered beneficiaries in our system. When I started this, I think it was around 135, and that was barely 3 years ago. That shows you our growth rate has been tremendous. And that's from Mount Vernon all the way down to Olympia, out here in the Western Island communities to the Pacific Ocean, and all the way to the Cascades. That's my area of responsibility. It's huge. We also expand in these other offices I'm about to tell you about all the way to Mississippi, right? So if you know people in other VISNs or VAs, they actually get support from us, from our centers of excellence. That's the level of reach that VA Puget Sound does in limb loss prevention, Parkinson's disease research, multiple sclerosis, and of course, substance abuse treatment. When you think about that, it's pretty impressive, right? That you are the epicenter for treatment that crosses all the way to the southern states. It's pretty amazing. We're also a regional hub, and we have 5 of them. And a lot of folks don't know this. We have a blind rehabilitation center, one of only very few in the country, spinal cord injury unit that is also another one of those regional hubs, an amputation center, a marrow, and a lung transplant unit center where we support the country through this hub as a hub and spoke model. It's a pretty impressive mission. We have a lot of staff that are dedicated to it and incredible people all around. Our commitment to providing healthcare to veterans, though, is the best health outcomes demonstrated is really our intent. And because of that, we have to remain nationally accredited. So in about 6 months' time or so, we'll receive another visit from the Joint Commission, who comes every 3 years. In truth, we have about 25 accreditation surveys every year. Can you imagine 25 inspections, David? Right? Okay, exactly. Not a good time, right? It's usually a time when leave is planned, right? Intentionally. We don't do that at VA Puget Sound, right? We have a massive undertaking here, and with 25 a year, Joint Commission just happens to be a fairly large one because they only come out every 3 years. But because we pass these, we're able to collect third-party insurance. We're able to establish ourselves as one of the top performing enterprises in the state of Washington. Just look at our star ratings and they speak for themselves. That's pretty amazing, ladies and gentlemen. This is the federal government, right? We're not typically known for that particular piece. And I'll tell you, we brought it to another level in the VA, and I give them all the credit for those pieces. Some quick facts, right? The Women's Health Program, right? We talked about that a little bit today. I was told that my data is already out of date and just printed this month, right? Is we're up to 19,000 enrolled women veterans, which is impressive. We're increasing our access for that. We're the 4th largest research program in the VA, right? For those of you who don't know, one of the major columns that makes up the columns of VA, which are 4 primary areas, is research, right? And we're number 4 in the nation and number 1 in human subjects research, which means a lot of the trials that we conduct here are FDA regulated, USDA regulated, where the medications come out of, where the series of surgeries come out of to improve, doing less to get the same outcomes or better, right? If those of you have heard of it. We had an inspection, speaking of, just this last week from the Food and Drug Administration, from the FDA. And anybody's had an inspection from the FDA, these are every 3 years too. And we passed with flying colors with no duels. Let's hear it for our research community. Are you kidding me? Are you thinking, you know what they came back with my favorite number from an inspection. That'd be 0, by the way, right? My fingers, I got a little arthritis here, right? 0. You can't do better than that, right? So we train also folks, not just in research, but also academia. For those of you who don't know, 70% of all providers throughout the United States spend either a fellowship, residency, or some sort of training program through a VA. That is amazing. So 70% of those who touch patients out in our nation went in one shape or form through a VA or work for a VA, which is pretty impressive. As a result, we support 130 different academic affiliations with institutions. Of course, we have UW on there, in case anybody's worried the Huskies were left out. They're not. They're a primary player. Being an old Husky myself, we had to make sure that that was on the docket, right? We do have Cougars on the docket. Sorry, Peter, right? We do have Cougars. And we've got the Seattle Institute of Biomedical and Clinical Research, which is not a university, but is an amazing research platform that has helped expand our research arm to levels we've never achieved without their assistance ever. So truly, when you walk through the door, you're in an outstanding safe quality of care zone, one of which is unmatched in the history of the VA. It's really impressive. And we are working hard to make sure that we have access to the largest number of veterans we possibly can. As everyone here has scarce resources, we're trying to be good stewards of our resources, make sure we're using them in ways that veterans need and have asked for, right? And that's really why we like to come to these events today, so we can kind of hear some of that feedback. VA Puget Sound and the Defense Health Agency are working to try to get a clinic established as a joint operation in Woodby Island Naval Air Station, right? So in the Oak Harbor area. It's a small one-pack team clinic. It can serve about 1,200 patients. We're hoping to get that done in around the summertime. Right now, the ball is in the DoD DHA's court to fix some elements of support that we're going to need to make that happen. But I feel confident they're going to come up with a way to come through with that and make that happen, because this would be the first joint effort in the state of Washington, at least on this side of the mountains that I'm aware of, in our time, right? And it's long overdue, right? So we're working to make that happen, to be able to better support the island communities and the great veterans we have out here. It is definitely a first of its kind. We have roughly 1,800 that are eligible. I realize a lot of those actually use Mount Vernon, probably still can, depending on where they're located physically. But that's our plan right now, to kind of put the seed corn out there and see how well it does. Just to give you some updates on our clinics, our Mount Vernon clinic, our design drawings are expected to be finalized by the end of 25. Which means we'll then move into the construction phase and hopefully have that done sometime, probably late 26 to be honest. And if we're not, we might be popped into 27, because the last clinic I built took 18 months, which is not bad, right? 18 months to build a clinic. That's 30,000 square feet and $10 million. Not bad. It's better than some homes, right? And that was Everett, by the way. So Mount Vernon is going to be a very like Everett model, maybe even a little bit bigger depending on what we can get done. And then we also have a replacement facility we're building for Olympia, but that current lease has been extended because we've had to put a hold on the move right now. So we extended the current lease, so we still have Olympia for the longer stay until we get that built. For Auburn, we're looking at 2026, a clinic build, and in Snohomish County, we're looking at a site to explore. So you can see we're still looking on the horizon for these things. No matter where it ebbs and flows with stewardship of resources, we'll be ready to pounce should that opportunity unfold itself, which we all think it will in time. These things work like this. Many of you might not even have noticed we had a clinic in Edmonds. The Edmonds clinic closed and transitioned to our Everett facility, which was always the intended clinic. It was a replacement clinic. This is a clinic we learned valuable lessons on when we did this before in Lewis County, right before I joined the VA. It was pretty challenging. And I think this one was advertised, communicated, talked about, shared with the veterans, made sure everyone got a letter. No one was surprised with the move, and haven't heard one single issue. Instead, I've actually heard a lot of thanks. This is a fabulous clinic. That clinic has a lot of diagnostics. It's got a lot of lab. It's an amazing clinic, and it fit those PAC teams and patients in seamlessly. We're also gonna have traveling specialists attend that clinic. So depending, you could even have dermatology, probably ortho. We do have mental health. A lot of those things are even doing traveling roadshow, if you will, to that clinic as a result. Folks, that's where we need to go with the VA in order to stretch our resources and share them with our community as best we can. For those of you not aware, we do have something called X Labs. You ever heard? It sounds pretty cool, like X Files, right? They probably need to copyright that appropriately, but I'll leave that up to them, right? They call themselves X Labs. X Labs now can take an order for a prosthetic, put it in their machine and system, and produce a prosthetic and ship it to a veteran who already has it in the system. They don't even need to come in for a visit. This is amazing. This is 3D printed equipment, right? And they're doing it today. And we have it built out at Fort Lawton. For those of you familiar with Fort Lawton, that's where we're having a lot of these devices created and we ship it out to our veterans all across the state. And many terms, we could do it across the country, which is what we're trying to do too. Another key way we're trying to expand this access piece, so it's not just building clinics, is obviously through telehealth hub services. Right, you've heard about this a lot, mental health and pain, and even we're even expanding it to amputee and lung transplant care. Is like we want to have these services available for consultation and discussion where touching the patients is not required. 55% of our patients participated in at least one virtual health modality in 2020. 55%, that's about 63,000 people out of nearly 245,000 patient encounters. Just so we're clear, we do 1.1 to 1.2 million visits a year in VA Puget Sound every year, so almost 5,000 every day. By the time I finish my day here, we'll have seen 5,000 patients across all our 10 footprints. That's a pretty amazing thing. It's a massive undertaking. It's fabulous. But this now involves other things like primary care, rehab, and the like to greater extent, which is fairly new, along with tele-emergency room, right? So tele-emergency room, think about that. How many of y'all been sick thinking, wow, I'm really on death stool, right? I hear this a lot from when my dad was alive. I'm on death stool. But you're really not an ER patient. You just had a flu and let it go too long, right? You call this number, you'll talk to a triage nurse 24/7 or a provider, depending on the hours you're talking to, and they'll determine whether or not you actually need to go to an ED, or you need to go to urgent care, or you can be addressed right on the phone as they pull your information up as a patient. We never had this before. And now thousands of people are using this brand new system, and it's saving them having to go and sit in an emergency room for 6 to 8 hours for those of you who have to do that. I've been through that several times because I have young kids, right? We tend to kind of visit emergency rooms here and there, right? It's not a pleasant experience, and it's a great thing to avoid if you can. And it really saves the system a ton of money that we can direct those resources at other things. So you can contact this number. I'm gonna give you a phone number for any emergency thought or what have you at 1-800-329-8387, and then press the number 3. And you maybe, depending on the times you're calling, like we have them staffed all day, you can actually talk to a telehealth physician that we have on call to answer those phones, or the triage nurse, like I said again, that's available 24/7. This is an important piece to go on about updates. So community care, right? Always a big topic. I told you what we had for community care. We've got about 80,000 providers in this community care network, and quite a bit of community care referrals, on average between 13,000 and 15,000 every month. It's extremely difficult to keep up with, as you can imagine, right? Everyone's had challenges with phone lines and getting through. Of course you have, because those numbers are staggering. There is no phone system in the state that can manage that weighted workload, and our hubs are no different because we use the state's hubs for our phone lines. So we tried some new efforts now that are afoot, and I wanted to share these with you so you could share them with your constituents, right? You may have noticed some of them already with the My Healthy Vet secure messages. Who here, show of hands, has a My Healthy Vet account? Better be 100%. Okay, somebody's making a counseling statement. All right, so if you don't have a Healthy Vet account, please talk to us. We will get you set up, and it's for your favorite price. Right? It's free. And you can get up to a premium account for free as well. Right? These numbers work for me, Pete. They should work for everybody, right? This is very important because you can do almost anything on My Healthy Vet. You can schedule appointments. You can send those to your provider. You can order and receive renewal prescriptions. You can check your lab results. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been in the service and now in the VA for a few minutes. Never in the history of my time running hospitals for the Army, field hospitals and normal ones, have we ever been able to do that. Ever. We need to be grateful and grasp on and leverage these resources, because if we don't, who knows what'll happen in time, right? We need to make sure we vote with our feet, or our fingers in this case, and leverage these systems to access our healthcare. We also have vet text messages. This is fairly new. We're sending out vet text messages, right, for appointments. The thing that I would have to ask you is, please do not ignore those text messages. I know we get text messages, right? If you're expecting an appointment or a referral and you get a vet text message, it'll ask you whether or not you've scheduled your appointment. Please do not ignore that. This is a way for us to make sure that you have a faster response to your needs for referred healthcare, right? Email communications, outbound phone calls from our community care team is one thing, but as you can see, it's a struggle. At times, my schedulers will spend an hour on the phone trying to schedule a single appointment. An hour, right? That's because the market is not owned by the VA. We're at the mercy of the market. Vet text is a way around that kind of system, so please take advantage of it. We've leveraged the tar out of it. I have asked the head office in Washington to allow us to have more access to it, and they've given us pretty much carte blanche. This is pretty awesome, state of the art. Welcome to the 21st century, right? I mean, it's pretty amazing. And the last thing I wanted to add on here is we also have something else called external provider scheduling, right? And so it's a pretty exciting new program. Community providers who decided to enroll in this, we've got them in PT, mental health, I think massage therapy, and a few others, right? These are ones where our VA schedulers can put you in the system, but this process allows our actual veterans to schedule their own appointments. It's amazing. They just go in the system and they can see them. And so it promises to reduce this back and forth time, if you will, for certain types of healthcare components. So the best free piece of advice I can give you with all that said, right? Research your in-network provider options, right? So if you're going to get a referral from the VA, you tell them what provider you want to see. Because if they're on that list, right, they're the ones that are already approved. That's something you can do on your own. You can already take a look at it and say, I have this condition. I probably need to see one of these. I live out so-and-so, right, zip code. I'm far away. I'm going to look online to see what providers are accepting. I'll take that provider and I'll be ready when I get my referral, because they'll ask me and I'll tell them, this is the provider I want to see. And boom, they put you in the system. We cut out hours, days, weeks, months of red tape that way. You can find your providers, and this is tough, this is an email address, or website address, excuse me, at www.va.gov, so that's an easy one, /find-locations. It's that simple. And if you don't get that far and you do www.va.gov, you will see on the site where you can find local provider, network providers support. They'll greatly expedite your scheduling times. That's what we're trying to fix, folks. I've got about 20-some thousand in the queue. I'm trying to get that down to around 15,000, so it's more manageable, but I need your help in doing so, and it also helps, the veteran. Be sure that you can get a approved authorization prior to care taking place. That's the other piece of advice I can give you. You should get approved authorization. Everyone gets it in the mail. Everyone does, I know, because as a vet, I've signed into the VA, so I am a customer of my own system, and I know what it does and what it doesn't do, right? And I know it does this to ad nauseam, right? It gives us tons of mail. So make sure you open that mail, keep that with you, take it to your appointment. And please be prompt when you're answering secure messages or vet text for that matter, or any kind of phones asking you for information on that particular appointment. Okay, I need some agreement on it, because that's what I'm trying to push forward, and I'll work it through WDVA as well too. There's lots of changes underway on that secure sign-in. As of September 25th, there'll be only two ways really to get in there, and it's login.gov or ID me. That's all you need. Login.gov or ID me, whichever works for you. If you go to amusement parks with kids, you probably recognize ID me, right? I mean, I did ID me, went to Disney, I had no idea what they're talking about. I used ID me. Those are the two ways of accessing our Healthy Vet in the future. It's more secure, and it doesn't require a password like this long that changes every 90 days. Not very helpful, right? Terrible. This is so much better, and why I wanted to foot stomp it and give them credit for those additions. Y'all familiar with our mobile prosthetic and orthotic care, MOPOC transition, right? We are driving, moving, delivering, making orthotics, prosthetics all over the state with this team. And they are really there for those who face significant travel barriers to coming to VA Sound, right? So they'll come out here to the island communities. They'll go way up north to Mount Vernon. They'll park in a parking lot on the other side of the peninsula by Silverdale. That's what we'll do. And we go south. We'll do all that to try to reach those rural communities who have a harder time getting. Our MOPOC clinician who visited the Mount Vernon clinic does about 1 or 2 times, I think, a week, right? That sounds about right. And does care for about 160 veterans and does about 300 additional visits, right? That's just in those couple days. That's pretty impressive, folks. So please take advantage of it. If you're interested in that care at Mount Vernon, because it's kind of specialized, the prosthetic and mobile orthotic team is at 206-277-3090. That number again is 206-277-3090. So if you have folks who have amputations and that sort of thing, or need orthotics or whatever, these are good information times to have. We talked a little bit about PACT Act, right? PACT Act has upped our enrollment significantly, which is, I think, accounting for a large percentage of it. We actually have done 95,000 screenings for PACT Act, almost 100,000 people. Of those 100,000 people, 53,000 people again were checked for a follow-up visit, right? Think of those numbers. Those numbers are staggering, absolutely staggering. And we've done that here in the state of Washington. We're the number 12 in the nation in terms of PACT Act promotion and addressing. So I just wanted to make sure you are aware of that. We help folks with a lot of community housing and outreach services. You heard a lot about that from WBVA. We work in tandem with them. Got about 160 staff that work homeless programs. A lot of times when I come to these, I meet folks that say, hey, we know about these homeless vets, or we have this particular issue, and they don't know about these programs. They don't know we have a housing program, HUD-VASH program within the VA. We run it out of 2 separate sites right now. I have one in Renton and one in Georgetown. I even put staff up at Everett right now in their upper story where they go out and visit and try to address these sorts of things. But we have means available to house these veterans in partnership with Washington State Department of Veterans Affairs. So please take advantage of it. Ask us a little bit more about that when you get a chance. We also have a veterans care caregiver support program office that does the same sorts of things for those stay-at-home caregivers. That's a very complicated system as well, too. I wanted to make sure you all knew that before we left today, and I apologize for going a little over. I wanted to make sure that you all had this information and that you all knew that you get a special gift, right? I would never leave. Let's give a big round of applause for Tammy Bagassi. I'm stealing all of her laurels, right? But these guys, I'm telling you, I've run into veterans. And this, by the way, this product, in part, is dedicated to our Veterans and Family Advocacy Council meetings. Does it sound familiar? Back with Family Advocacy. That's because events like this is where we collect this information to come up with documents like this that are helpful to veterans in navigating what is truly a bureaucratic and challenging system. Because I use it myself, right? And what better way to do that with a roadmap to success? So please give us grades on this. Tell us how it's working for you or how it's not, or if there's something missing. Thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate everyone's time. God bless you.
Every time the doctor comes, we learn something new. Boy, they are at it all the time. It's exciting to know that in Washington, we are receiving the latest, greatest care. The status quo is not acceptable for the doctor or his staff and team in Washington State. So we've got a lot more to go. I just know that the veterans are going to continue to benefit from their work. Thank you so much, Doctor. Up next, Women Veterans Advisory Committee overview and an update. And that is going to be, where's she at? There she is. Come on up. Crystal. You want to try
Somebody
it?
wants to say my last name.
Shinbai.
Shinbai, yes.
Crystal Shinbai. I didn't really know it, I had it written down so I could say it, so anyway. Thank you very much. Tell us how your WEBAC meeting went.
Okay. Hi, how is everybody doing? So I wanted to do a quick introduction of what the WEBAC is, the Women Veteran Advisory Committee, and who we are. So I'm gonna share a little bit about our mission. So our mission is to ensure that Washington women veterans have equitable access to federal and state veteran services and benefits. That's like our goal, and we to come out and connect with the community, help women connect their identity as veterans. Like, not all women veterans are willing to share that they're veterans, so we're really trying to help them be comfortable in that space as a veteran, change the public perception of what veterans look like, and of course, connect women veterans to their benefits, whether they're incarcerated or any other scenario. And then, of course, like connect women veterans to the community. That's what we're here doing today. And that was part of what we were doing with the Women Veteran Advisory Committee, who was actually led by Levada Anderson and Sharon Bruner today. Bruner wrote, sorry, I said that incorrect. So we have a committee of about 15 members right now, and they're all across Washington State. So when we go to OMAC, we'll have different representatives there, and when we go to Walla Walla for that town hall, we'll have different representatives there as well. But I want to introduce Levada Anderson, because she has additional impact for us in our tribal community, and I want to give her a chance to have a conversation about that. Thank you.
Good morning, anyway. It's a pleasure to be here today and we have the honor to be with repeating friends and partners in the WDVA. Had the great honor to be part of that for the last 20 years since 2004, starting with the Colorado Confederated Tribes. Representing tribal veterans in rural Indian country and bases and the women veterans that serve, and helping them navigate the aspect of, like Dr. Bond says, a very bureaucratic system that we have difficulties even if we work here to disclose. So our Women Veterans Advisory Council, when I first became a part of that, in the honor of 6 years, we had targeted 412 women at our Tri-Cities event and women's event, and little than 300 women that served it don't always self-identify like we see. We don't ask them if they're veterans, we ask, did you serve? Spouses, we also do our service to veterans families and our spouses and our surviving community members that work and live in Indian country. And so with our WEBAC, we were able to identify some of the issues in community, not just rural Indian areas, but here the aspects of navigating the system. So coming out to these events, it's a pleasure to be here. I do the affiliated tribes of Northwest Indians of our 59 tribes of the Pacific Northwest, working with tribes and navigating those processes. Our partner, sharing the work with our incarcerated veterans, the transitional programs for our different Washington Department of Veterans Affairs programs. So it was a great honor in reaching out and networking, and thank you all for having us.
So one quick note that I wanted to mention, Ron asked us to kind of speak to our advisory committee meeting today, or the forum that we have for the women veterans. So I just wanted to share that we did receive some positive feedback, and we also received some opportunities to improve both at the state and the federal levels. And so we'll be sharing that back with the Governor Veteran Advisory Committee so that they can take that back up through the process. And of course, me working for your Washington State Department of Veteran Affairs will be sharing that with the executive leadership team so we can help support from our end as well. So I just wanted to share that's kind of, and I also want to say Levada and Sharon stayed behind when they started the town hall to actually assist the veterans right on the spot with some news that they discovered today through the forum. So that's one of the benefits of having veteran leaders, and Laveda and Sharon are amazing, and so it's really awesome to see them answer questions and really kind of talk into some detail and be able to have that conversation. I also want to say thank you to the women leaders and veterans who joined us today from Opportunity Council, the VA, and a few others. We had veteran, the guitar, oh my gosh, I'm gonna say it wrong. The Guitar for Vets and a few others as well. So just want to say thank you for you joining us and sharing your stories as well. That was really important to me.
Would our women veterans stand up? Just want to see where you're at. There's some. And we'd like to thank you all for your service specifically. For your service. At this time, we're going to have a 5-minute break. We're running a little long, so please take a break and we'll be back in 5 minutes. I got the copy. To introduce at this time, women's, BA Women's Program, Heather Gaither Vale, the Puget Sound Women Veterans Program Manager. Come on up. Hey, Heather.
Having me and flexible in the schedule, I have to leave like right after this to go drive 3 hours back south. To switch out a car to go drive to pick up my daughter from school, so I was like, oh no, I'm getting tired before first trust, so I was like, can I please come next? I'll be pretty quick though, I just wanna introduce myself and talk about a little bit of the programs at the VA and also a couple things we have coming up. But then also make sure that you all have my direct number, if you do have questions, there will be your Q&A. If you have questions or there's services you need help with, please do not hesitate to reach out. So as I said, hello, my name is Heather Gaither Vale, and I'm the Women Veterans Program Manager for the Veteran Health Administration for Puget Sound. The Women Veteran Program is committed to ensuring that women veterans are receiving equal care at the VA and that all their health needs are addressed in a safe and timely manner. Our program also works directly with women veterans to answer questions and help them access their care. If you have any questions about your care or need any help with services, please give us a call. This is that direct number at 206-764-2441. So again, it's 206-764-2441. Please write it down. Unfortunately, it didn't make it into our lovely book that Dr. Fun is so proud of, and it is a great resource. Unfortunately, it didn't make it in there, so definitely please write it down. For primary care, we have a team of over 100 women's health primary care providers who offer comprehensive primary care across every site in our region. We offer gender choice of primary and mental health providers, and women veterans may choose gender integrated care at any of our sites or receive care in our women's clinics, which have exclusive separate entrances in clinical spaces at American Lake in Seattle. All services available to male veterans are also available to women veterans across primary, specialty, mental health, social work, nutrition, pharmacy, and emergency/inpatient care. Additionally, unique to our women veterans, we are proud to offer services in tune to the needs of women veterans. These include in-house gynecology, full scope reproductive services, menopause management, and dedicated care coordination to help navigate breast and cervical cancer screenings, and maternity, fertility, and reproductive health services in the community. So we have a dedicated team in community care that does those referrals. That's separate from the normal community care process for all reproductive health, maternity, and mammography care. In regards to mental health, our VA offers a full range of support, including integrated care teams, inpatient, outpatient care, substance use disorder, and specialty mental health care. We have specialty programs for the treatment of PTSD, substance use disorders, and homelessness. And then our facility has a military sexual trauma coordinator who works with veterans, advocates for them, and helps them access VA and community resources. We also have 2 intimate partner violence assistance program coordinators who work with veterans who are using or experiencing intimate partner violence. So they also have groups specific to that, and then we also have MST groups that are both for male veterans and for female veterans. In addition to the many groups offered to the VA, which is in that lovely book that Dr. Monk handed out, we also have some women-specific groups, including a maternal health group, Menopause 101, pregnancy physical therapy, and women's cancer support groups. We have 2 maternity care coordinators who work with veterans from their first pregnancy test through 1 year postpartum. We also offer infertility care for all veterans, from evaluation through treatment, including intrauterine insemination, and then also IVF for veterans who have a adjudicated VBA service-connected condition that's related to their fertility. So if you have any questions about that, once again, you can always give us a call. And then we also do have a fertility coordinator who can offer work with you and answer any of those questions that you have. We also have in sexual health programs and a public floor PT as well. Those are kind of the programs I like to go over, because sometimes those are the ones that people don't know about. I want to quickly go over a couple of new things coming. We will be hosting a Women Veteran Health Fair at American Lake on May 2nd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The health fair will have a mammography van, COT clinic, vaccine clinic, health and wellness resources, free lunch, and childcare provided on site at the childcare center. For those that don't know, we do have a childcare center at American Lake. So any appointment that you have, lab, pharmacy pickup, have up to 3 hours in childcare at American Lake. And then starting on June 13th, we will have a mammography dance on site at American Lake the second Friday of every month going forward. And then on July 16th, we will have a women veteran focus group in person at the DFW Post 2100 in Everett, Washington from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. So again, if you have any questions about anything I've discussed or need any help or info on any other services, please give me a call at that number, that's 206-764-2441. Thank you all for having me and thank you for your flexibility.
I'd like to introduce now for suicide prevention and awareness, Don Cease, lead suicide prevention program specialist. Subject we're all interested in.
Thank you. I guess it's still morning. I mean, I was supposed to start at 11:30, so my brain is still morning. So we're gonna go with good morning. My name is Don with your Washington State Department of Veteran Affairs. As I was so kind enough to say, I am the lead team specialist. My supervisor, who just stepped out to do a meeting, is not here, where I point her out because we go to our next slide. There's a quick little overview of our team. But instead of putting her picture there, I just was like, I'll just point to you and make everybody stare at you in person. But then she sneaks away, so I can't really do that. So as you see, we have the entire state covered. Typically, there's 4 of us right now. We are currently working with one here, who is Holly out on Eastern Washington. Fortunately, we are down to technically 3 staff. So you're going to either be stuck with myself or Holly trying to support you in whatever way we can, but we are definitely more than happy to do that, especially if you bring food and snacks. I will come, I don't care where in the state you are, I will be there because I will never turn down a free meal. Again, and then we have Derek, who does our grant program. So if you ever need anything regarding training, resources, stuff like that, we are the team to go to. We will come out to wherever you are. Next slide. Like I said, we go anywhere. So we are quite mobile. We provide suicide prevention training through the University of Washington's Forefront program. It's called Learn Save Lives. We like to pride ourselves that, like I said, we will go anywhere. We have projectors and screens. So I've done it in a living room on a ranch with 3 people and then got to go ride some horses afterwards. So I guess that was kind of a fair trade. But I've done it in the backcountry parts of Skamania, which I'd never been before. So I went down there and I was like, I didn't know this was a place. So it's kind of neat. And like I said, I cover mostly the whole I-5 corridor, north to south, and anywhere along the western side. So I'm more than happy to fill in. We also started with the assistance of the Office of Commerce. We do a safety lockbox transition for transitioning service members, right? So if you can get us in on the Whidbey Island, we'd be more than happy to get those transitioning sailors, those lockboxes. I'm an Army vet personally, but I have a little bit of a soft spot for the sailors just because my dad did 20 years. It's not his fault. He's 6'4", so he never worried about drowning. I'm a little bit shorter than him, so it's a little concern for me. We also promote the 988 emblem, right? And how many here is familiar with 988, the new crisis line? Sweet. So most of us, if not all, part of our job and the things that we do is we go out and promote that resource, right? It's something anybody needs. You can text, you can call at any time of day or night. But on top of that, we provide an emblem with our partnership through DOL. It's $10 for this emblem. You go out to the parking lot today on your way out and you see any of the exempt plates, it's not our fault, I can promise, it's not mine. You'll see a little 988 There Is Hope emblem on the bottom of those plates. Those emblems, the money we get from those sales, we can provide community-based resources. So every year we award a grant back out to a community program. Just this past year, we awarded it to Alethea, which is an equine assisted therapy program in Wenatchee. And so we're about to award our next one. And so the more people we can get to invest in those emblems, the more money we can award, we give out, or split it and award it to multiple programs. And that's something we really would like to do. So far, we've partnered most recently with Liberty Lake out in Eastern Washington, the city of Lacey, and the city of Olympia. So if you guys are interested in getting it out to your city, I'm more than happy to again come out and stand in front of a bunch of people that I don't know and talk. But if there's snacks, it makes it a little bit easier for me. And again, so the emblem, the fiscal year for last year, we raised, just from the emblems alone, we raised almost $8,000. The rest was through donations. But that's money, again, we were able to give back to our community partners and help serve veterans and their families. And then we have for this year, we're at almost set, a little over $6,000, right? So I'd love to see, I wanted to match it, we're getting kind of close. So if you guys, like I said, getting those emblems out there, let's see if we can match what we got last year. That'd be awesome. And then the most recent thing that I have a little bit of pride in, because I helped write it, was we developed a stigma training to help combat suicide. As we know, as veterans, there's a lot of stigma of being a veteran, and it can be very uncomfortable. And while this training doesn't cover everything, because my veteran experience is going to be very different from everybody else's, we try to address those just as an overlying basis. And this is to help keep people informed, help make easier to make those community connections with our, loved ones out there that we work every day with. And next slide. And so again, the emblem, we have some brochures in the back. Leland was kind enough to give me a little bit of table space for that, so thank you. Please feel free to pick up one of those. There's a QR code that you can scan to get that resource, or you can email me. I'll leave some cards behind. I'm trying to go a little fast because, like the previous person before me, I have a child thing, but it's more of that's a birthday and there's cake involved, and I don't want to miss the cake. And if I'm not there by 5, the cake will be gone. I was told that specifically by my 12-year-old. So. Again, the emblem's $10. There's a one-time $8 fee. Unfortunately, that has to go to DOL. We got to pay them. DOL, they like to keep their funding too, so we support them with that. And then next slide. So again, the learn training that we provide, I mentioned we go anywhere and everywhere that you want us to be there. We can do it virtually, in person. I've done them at 12 o'clock at night. It wasn't my favorite time, probably not my best performance either. But I did it. Luckily, it was virtually, so from the waist up, I got to be professional. From the waist down, I was in pajamas. It's midnight. I am not up that late anymore. So, but if you do have questions, please feel free to contact us. We will leave some brochures in the back as well. Yes.
I just want to add that if you buy the 988 emblem in full, the $10 fee is only the one.
Correct.
Time.
Well, the $8 fee is one time.
$8 fee, sorry.
So.
The DOL fee is a one-time cost, and then so you're only paying for additional.
So if you want to buy 200
Christmas gifts.
yeah, they make great gifts. You can put. You don't even have to put them on your car. I've had a community college. They bought them. They put them on their classroom windows. So ultimately they're stickers. You can put them wherever you'd like. We just wanted to get that information out there in that resource. And I think there are any more slides. I might remember. So that's all my slides. So again, I want to thank everybody for having us out here. Like everybody else said, I really enjoyed coming out here. I don't get to come out here very often because it's kind of far from Olympia, but when I do get to come out here, it's great. Now that I know there's a bridge to get here, I'm a little bit more comfortable. Nobody told me about that the first time I came. I have a little bit of a phobia of bridges, going overseas a couple times, getting, some unexpected events happen while you're driving down the road, and then being on a bridge, it makes it a little nervous, and that's quite a bridge to go over. So again, thank you everybody for your time, and
Enjoy your cake. Next is suicide prevention and mental health. Dr. Larry Pruitt. Wait a minute, you guys know the party. Good come job.
Oh, it's so good to be here and see so many familiar faces. Yeah, I'm good. Thanks everybody for being here for your time. Dawn is a hard act to follow, so I'm not even gonna try. No humor in what I'm about to say. For those who I haven't met, my name is Larry Pruitt. I'm a psychologist here at BU Puget Sound. I have the good fortune of running our suicide prevention programs, and as hard as that work is, there's a lot of positives that comes from the work as well, because we're able to intervene. You've gotten a lot of phone numbers given out today. I have the easiest one to remember. It's 988. Okay, that's the Veterans Crisis Line. You dial those 3 numbers, you press 1. That'll get you to a responder, and then it'll also get you a follow-up from the local VA hospital, where we can check in, we can make sure that whatever the reason for calling is fully resolved, and help you get connected to all those wonderful services that were spoken of earlier. So as I was planning my remarks for today, I thought, You know, I'm really looking forward to the day when I can get up here and say, hey, we've done it. We've turned the tide, suicide rates are going down in the military veteran communities. I just slate me on the agenda for whenever that happens, I will be there. Because we've been working at this for a long, long time. Unfortunately, today is not that day. But today's a reminder that we will continue to do this work until that day happens. And when I say we, I don't just mean the VA. I mean VA Puget Sound, but also WDVA. I mean the American Legion, the VFW, community nonprofits, everybody who has a stake in veteran wellness and veteran suicide prevention. And the reason for this is because suicide continues to be a leading cause of death amongst our veteran community. 12th. It used to be 10th. Right? And then there was a pandemic and there was a new sort of very common cause. But it's coming back. It was 13th last year. When we look at our veterans who are under the age of 45, it's the second cause of death. Right? It warrants us devoting as much time and attention to combating as we can. I wanted to give everybody a rundown of some of the national level data that's come out over the last year. This is the most recent data that we have available. It's from calendar year 2022. And while it shows that there were increases in suicide rates from 2021 to 2022, there are some really positive signs, things that we can look at and say, how do we capitalize on that? How do we continue that trend? And it's important to reflect on those because as we work to change this pattern for the last 2.5 decades, these are our inroads. These are the ways we're going to continue those changes. So most notably, and in relation to the topic earlier today, there was a 24% decrease, almost a full quarter decrease in suicide rates amongst female veterans in the last year. That's huge. You don't see double-digit numbers like that. A 37% reduction in suicide rates amongst veterans receiving homelessness services at the VA. Right, our most vulnerable veterans, those that are unhoused, those who have so many things working against them, yet we've seen almost a 40% decrease in suicide rates. One that doesn't sound like a big change, but absolutely is a 3.8% reduction in suicide rates amongst the highest risk age group, the 18 to 34-year-olds. And that, why that's so important is because that's a large group of veterans from the most recent conflicts. And that rate has been exceedingly high in those groups, higher than any others. And now that has switched. There's still groups that are accounting for much more of the trend, but for that group where there's been so much focus and so much concern, we've seen a reversal. And the goal is to keep that reversal going. We've also seen large decreases in veterans that are reaching out and receiving mental health care at the VA. A 36% decrease for those that are treated for anxiety disorders, regardless of their suicidality. A 34% decrease for those being treated for depression. A 32% decrease for those treated for PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder. And a 13% decrease for those that are seeking treatment for a substance abuse related condition. So what that tells me is that VA's continued prioritization of suicide prevention is working. And we need to continue that. Given that nearly 75% of all veteran suicides are due to the self-directed use of a firearm, I'm pleased to announce that VA is now providing one free locking device, a shoebox-sized gun safe, essentially, to any veteran per year who is having intermediate or high risk levels of suicide. So that actually happens through our prosthetics program. The same folks that 3D print, those prosthetic limbs, or are out in the MOPOC van, they can order these locking devices to get them out to veterans so that they can put time and space between those suicide-related thoughts and the capability to act on them, right? In addition, we continue to give out thousands of gun locks every year. I have a box in the back. They're the red cable locks you see back there. Please take as many as you need. We will get you as many as you need. Just let me know. We are also making really important strides screening every veteran. Dr. Butt mentioned 160,000 veterans receiving care at VA Puget Sound. We are screening more than half of them for suicide risk. at those visits. And for every one of those that says, yes, I'm struggling, I'm having thoughts of suicide, I need help, they are getting follow-up from a licensed clinician on the same day as that screening visit in more than 90% of the cases. Okay, 90% is the low threshold that VA has set for those screenings, and we are exceeding that. VA Puget Sound continues to be a top referral site. We're actually number 4 in the nation. We were number 2 last year. For consults from the Veterans Crisis Line, those are veterans who are reaching out to that 988 number asking for help. And while you might not think that that's a list that you want to be at the top of, I would disagree. Because what it tells me is that high number of callers tells us that the veterans in our area are aware of 988 as a resource, and they are willing to call and get that help. And so as much as we can get that number out into the hands, programmed into the phones, you name it, of veterans, the better off. There are also stickers in the back. Take one of those, put them on your laptop, put them on your water bottle, put them wherever where a veteran might see that and think, you know, maybe it's time to give them a call. My favorite thing about my job, working with folks who call the Veterans Crisis Line, is that we get to talk to all veterans, regardless of service connection, regardless of discharge status, regardless of any of the other qualifications that come into play with VA care. We will talk to any veteran. We will follow up with any veteran from our VA staff, and we will ensure that those veterans have a next step for their mental health care, whether that's in the community, whether it's at the VA, whether it's through WDVA. We're not letting anyone end those calls that doesn't have a next step for their wellness. Finally, through programs like the Washington State Governor's Challenge, the VA Puget Sound and WDVA Suicide Prevention Think Tank, and the work of our community engagement and partnership coordinators, we have added an arm to our program. It's no longer just clinical crisis services, but we've recognized that we need to reach out on a public health level, that we need to connect with veterans well ahead of that moment of crisis, so that when those problems start cropping up that eventually get them to the point of feeling suicidal, we've already had a chance to intervene, give them resources, get them connected to services, so that that problem never escalates. This public health program has become such an important part of what we do. It's why I'm out here. It's why we have folks that are 100% of their job is connected to getting out and making folks aware. So if you have opportunities where you want the VA to be at a meeting or an event or a stand down or a wellness fair, let us know so we can get folks there. We can bring all sorts of swag to give folks. And it's all in the goal of getting that crisis line number in the hands of folks that might need it. And sometimes it's not that person you give that water bottle to or that, dog frisbee to. It's the person that they hand it to. The person they recognize, hey, you're not telling anybody what's going on. Maybe you can tell these folks. The other reason why the crisis line is so important is because from the data, we know that of the 17 veterans that die by suicide every single day, 11 of the 17 are not connected to the VA for any care. Okay. Those are folks that we're not necessarily going to be able to touch working in the hospital in a clinical setting. But those community programs, those public health programs are the vehicles through which those folks can get access to those services. And maybe by changing that 11 out of the 17 down, we drop the overall numbers. Thank you again for your time. Thank you again for being here. Thank you for all that you do. Dave, I see your hand.
Yeah, so real quick, while Dr. Drew is up there, I just want to take 1 second. So for Island County, how many of us all know their session passed? What session passed? How much of an issue it is? I want to make sure that it's recognized that between 911 and the VA department and the suicide prevention team, we were able to get a 988 sign put over at the State Department or at the parks for the patient.
Yeah. As I drove over this morning, I was watching for it. You bet. Thank you all.
That comment, one up, Island County Veteran Services. This guy was doing hard. All VSOs do, and he's pretty impressive. He does a fantastic job. He's motivated and thank you for all you do, sir.
All right. All right, can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
All right, public speaking, here we go. So I'll start off with just a thanks to everybody who's come up here. If I haven't interacted with you directly through our programs, I've seen the effects of it. Whether it's Jemile, who I found out that I was on the phone with last week, helping me sort out a claim, looking at VVMS with me. Leland, suicide prevention, the veterans homes, right? Tyler has driven veterans out to those veteran homes. I've worked on getting them up 70% to get that paid for. Very impressed by that. Front office, when we call them, super helpful. I have no problem referring veterans to those places. VHA, that's where I get my health care. Every veteran I meet with, I say, if you're not enrolled in VA healthcare, please do it now before you have an immediate problem and you're not trying to enroll and book your first appointment, right then. And that 24-hour number, that's awesome. They will overnight you in any pot. It's crazy. So, I know TRICARE and VA healthcare. So I can't compare it really from personal experience to commercial, but I don't see how there's a better quality healthcare out there. Same with the women, helping with women veterans and travel affiliated veterans, great work there. And I know the trend's gonna continue when Opportunity comes out, Opportunity Council comes up here, because they support veterans in this community. So I think it shows a common theme, even though we have different goals, the theme is to help veterans, right? And we support each other. When you meet, a veteran's goal for housing or food or healthcare, you're contributing to that whole person picture. And we don't always see the impact we have on each other. With that, I'll introduce our two programs. I'll start with the VAF. That is run by Tyler Howard, our Veteran Services Coordinator. It is a program funded by property taxes from Island County. The main goal of this is to cover emergent financial needs that veterans have. And it's really to arrest the financial hardships, right? We're talking about all the things veterans need: healthcare, mental health, financial health, all those. Usually those are comorbid, right? So if you're trying to get access to healthcare, that's pretty hard when you're trying to make it to your appointment, your car breaks down. If you're trying to get into housing, pretty hard if you're trying to, stay employed and you're worried about your utility bill being paid off while you're on the clock trying to do your job. So we're trying to arrest that with short-term relief until a long-term solution can be made, right? So it's not a Band-Aid on a bullet wound, but it's the tourniquet to, let you catch your breath. A lot of times veterans, all they need was time. They lost their job. They need a month. We had one veteran that, she lost her job as a nurse. We helped cover her mortgage. She came back and said, "Hey, thank you so much. My daughter didn't even know. I didn't have to tell her, hey, I don't know where we're going to be next month." She was able to get help and get back on her feet, right? All on her own. When we have veterans who need extra help, we're going to try to refer them there. So the criteria for that is keeping with the definition of a veteran. They have to be discharged with a other than dishonorable discharge. They have to be an Island County resident at the time of their application, and they have to be a Washington State resident for the previous year or current year, at least 1 year. We also have income thresholds. They vary by family size. These are roughly $21,000 for a single veteran, $24,000 for a two household, and it increases all the way up to 7 households, right? So anybody who's going through a short-term struggle, contact our office. We'll get you where you need to go. Hopefully arrest those problems in the short term. With that, some of what we've done with the program is, with our annual budget of this year being $124,000, we provided housing either through rental or mortgage support, vehicle repairs, food, fuel, utility vouchers, and funeral costs, right? So those are short term. We do Up to 6 food vouchers, those are carried out through our local vendors, Safeway, grocery outlet. We also work with some of the gas stations around here. You get a voucher, you take it to them, they bill the county, we cover it from there. Housing, much of the same, we limit those to usually one rental support. And then try to get on to some more sustainable things after that. In addition to our VAF, I'm the VSO, so we have our VSO office here. I think I can skip over a lot of what the claims are in the PACT Act because that's been covered. But the big overview is if you have a current condition, look at disability court, right? The 3 things they need, you have to have a current diagnosis, you have to have an in-service event, and a medical nexus, so a relationship between those 2 things, right? The VA, they're actually not opposed to veterans, they're actually working for you. They don't want to turn down benefits, right? But it's our job to tell that story so they know how to say yes. And they'll help you with the diagnosis. They will help you gather evidence to get that, but we have to submit those applications. So that's my role here. My process is we start out with the initial paperwork. We do an intent to file. We do 2122, which is your authorization to have me as your representative. Every VSO that's accredited is going to do that. And then we sit down and I hear your story, right? So I want it to be, first of all, I want to hear your story from your perspective, how it relates. And then we're going to look at the documentation. So I'm going to screen your current medical records. I'm going to look at your naval service, either records within the VA or what we can find elsewhere. And I'm going to look at those with your story in mind. So I know you got to share with me your experiences. I'm looking at the records that the VA is going to want to confirm that. We're going to put it together. Much like with the PACT Act, if you have those 3 parts, the event and service, the medical condition, and the relationship, the 2, a lot of what the PACT Act is doing, among increasing research, expanding healthcare eligibility, is they're saying we don't have to bother getting a medical opinion for that relationship between the 2. We know we've seen this number of veterans who were exposed to Agent Orange develop this condition. We're not going to waste it. It's going to be automatic, right? Just because it's not on the presumptive list does not mean that you cannot file a claim. And it does not mean that claim cannot be approved. It just means that they're going to have to go through the full steps, right? So if you have a recent one would have been bladder cancer. Bladder cancer was not recognized as related to burn pits, but people were having claims approved for bladder cancer related to burn pits. What they needed was a medical opinion specific to that case. Whereas now, things that are approved, they're going to look, say, hey, he was exposed, he was in Saudi Arabia in 1998, he was exposed to burn pits there, he has this condition, done deal. So again, that's our process. What we're going to do is get your story, get it on the right forms, and get it sent to the VA. If it comes back and we agree with everything, it's a done deal. If not, the VA wants to help you enough that they allow you to challenge their opinion or their results, right? So although it seems adversarial that you have to apply and then you have to come up with more information, you have to request a higher level review or a board, those things are in place because the VA wants to get it right, and they're working within the confines of the legislation. So when the VA denies something or when they approve it, it's not because the person behind that desk cares about veterans or doesn't care about veterans. It's because they're working within the framework of the legislation, and that's what we are able to provide them. So I try to give that, to make sure that when veterans work with the VA, they understand that they are on your side. Their job is to take care of veterans, and it's frustrating as it can seem when I work with that every day, and I don't get the answers I want all the time. I know that they are trying to do their part, and it's a massive, department within the country. For our office specifically, We started in 2020, end of 22, right? So fiscal year 23 was a little bit of 22. We processed $1.3 million worth of claims. That is the back pay in the next 12 months. In 2024, we processed 3.4 million. And in 2025, we're looking at 5 to 6 million if we extrapolate the numbers so far out to the rest of the year. That is based off of 55 decided claims for 23, 122 for 2024, and 70 so far for 2025, with 153 claims open pending and a lot more to submit this year. Since our program is growing, we have been, flooded with calls and veterans. And while we want to get to every veteran in a timely manner, we're not willing to sacrifice that personal connection. One of the most satisfying things about my job is when I answer the phone and someone says, "Oh my gosh, you're a person." Oftentimes you call the clinic, you have to press a bunch of prompts or whatever, not just the VA, but anything nowadays. It's rare that you get a person on the line who's going to help you through the entire process the first time you call. So to support that, we're expanding and hoping to get a VA work study candidate really soon to support that. We're going to be processing claims, hopefully at a faster rate with the same customer care, and able to continue supporting events like this and finding the veterans in the community. That's about all I got. I think I have a couple more minutes if anyone has a question.
Now the Ireland County Opportunity Council, Zach. Oh, excuse me, Ross Emery. There you go.
Right, good morning, everyone. My name is Rob LeBrenz. I am the Supportive Services for Veteran Families, or SSVF Program Coordinator at Opportunity Council. So a little background on Opportunity Council. We are a nonprofit community action agency headquartered in Whatcom, Island County branch. We oversee obviously Island County, and then with the SSVF program, as of the last year, we oversee Island County, San Juan County, Jefferson County, and Clallam County. So what is SSVF? It is a VA-funded program for veteran homeless housing. So SSVF is a nationwide initiative available in every county throughout the country. The VA utilizes nonprofit organizations like Opportunity Council to administer the funding, do the intakes, and provide housing assistance to veterans in crisis. So the program is kind of split into two things. We have rapid rehousing. So those veterans that are experiencing literal homelessness, and there's a few definitions to that, but basically living out of their vehicle, in an emergency shelter, transitional housing, things of that nature. And then we have homeless prevention. So that's a veteran or a family who has a fixed, permanent nighttime residence, and something's come up like a pay or vacate notice or eviction notice or something that puts that tenancy at risk. For both of those programs, we look at three things: veteran status, the housing status, and then income. For veteran status, within the VA programs, we differ a little bit in that we are a lot more accommodating. So veterans who may have sworn in, shown up to boot camp, and did one day, and then were discharged for whatever reason, would still qualify under the SSVF program. The only disqualifier is a dishonorable discharge or a bad conduct discharge. Bad conduct due to a special court martial is allowable. That's an eligible discharge status. We also, if there's a National Guard member or reserve member, we always tell all veterans, when in doubt, just come see us. If you're in crisis, let us see what we can do. But for National Guard, you do have to have activation, federal activation, and same with reserves or active duty training. Once we do that, we see if they are literal homelessness or if they need prevention screening, if they do reside in a fixed permanent residence. And one thing, especially coming out of COVID where the rules were bent just a little bit, is one thing this program is not is an entitlement program for rental assistance. During COVID, we kind of were able to make a little more, we were a little more flexible in who we're able to serve. Right now, though, you've got to meet all those criteria and it's got to be kind of an emergent one-time need. It's not for ongoing rental assistance and stuff like that. And then income, we are lucky in that our income limits are pretty high as far as federal programs. So we go off of area median income, which is set by HUD. So for Island County, let's say a single veteran, and I'm just pulling this number off the top of my head because I don't have it in front of me, but it's like 57,000. So a veteran can be receiving a host of benefits, have income, work, you know, and still qualify to receive services through our program, which is pretty great because a lot of times people are facing hardships and you know, they're working or whatever, and it puts them just a little over income and then they can't receive the assistance. So they're in this kind of weird nebulous gray area where they can't get the help they need and they're stuck where they're at. So we're able to open the door to a lot more veterans. And another great thing with income is VA service-connected disability is not counted for income eligibility. So if a veteran is 100%, let's say they're making $3,200 a month, whatever, they make $0. We will take it into account when we're looking at housing and seeing how much they can afford towards their rent and everything. But it used to be that if a veteran was receiving every single federal disability benefit, they would oftentimes be over income. Those days are gone. So we're able to assist a lot more. And then another thing with the SSVF program is we are a conduit into the HUD-VASH program. So VA medical centers and their homeless outreach representatives can assist with that. And then for veterans in our program, oftentimes if they need higher clinical care or if they just need a longer, deeper housing subsidy to remain stable and in housing, we will refer them directly to HUD-VASH. And then to that end, within the counties that we serve, so Island County, Jefferson County, Collin County, and San Juan County, we are essentially the coordinated entry point for veterans. So for everybody who is not a veteran within those counties, oftentimes they have to go to either like a county housing authority or at least in Island County, we have a housing support center. So they have to go in there, get screened and everything like that. Veteran can come straight to Opportunity Council, check in with a receptionist and say, I'm a homeless veteran. And then we will see them that day. And then lastly, within our office at Opportunity Council, not a part of the SSVF program, we are managing a new program privately funded called the North Puget Sound Veteran Job Assistance Fund. And this initially we did a beta test in Island County. It was successful. I think we've assisted 14 veterans since the fund was opened, and then we've since expanded it into the counties we serve through SSVF, Jefferson, Clallam, San Juan, and then also with partner agencies in Skagit. And this is able to provide veterans who there's some roadblock standing in the way of them obtaining gainful employment. So what we are not is we don't do the job search and everything for them, but we can get referrals from places like WorkSource. So they say, here's a veteran, they need the certification. We can't pay for it, but that's all they need. They can get their job. We can do the intake with that veteran, pay for that certification, get them that job. So, yeah, that's all I got. All right, thank you.
This time we'll open for any questions. Anybody got any questions of our speakers? Presenters? Please stand up, go ahead.
Yeah.
Online though.
Yes.
There we go. So my name's Chris Diaz, I'm a Skagit County Veteran Service Officer. We just put on a veteran stand down and ended up having over 500 folks there. Last October was 300, so we're growing pretty fast, pretty big. So I just had some questions, and I don't want to take everybody's time, but one of the things I was a little concerned about was the availability of somebody to help do VHA benefits at our stand down. I wasn't able to get somebody. And I did put a request in, but never heard back. But then I guess leading to that is I think we're losing Rachel Morgan, our liaison between VHA and Skagit County. And she was the one that was helping, she was my go-to person, helping Skagit County veterans and their families out as far as getting our flyers into the VA's clinics, getting flyers printed out, answering questions about, veterans in certain healthcare unique situations. But I was hoping that Dr. Ben, you can go find Rachel, tell her she can do a job. I was not just there, but Rachel's been a really good help. And up here in Skagit County, it's rural, as you guys know, it's a rural county, just like Island and Whatcom. So it makes it a little bit harder for us up here to get the help. I was hoping you can answer some of those questions.
Well, the individual folks are one thing, the system and process is another, right? So we're not codependent on a person being there in order for that function to be there. Right, so we have to have the function. So the function deals with getting that information out. We have other folks that can definitely take that information and provide that for you. We don't need a particular person to be a single point of failure. For example, if I fall, there's 3 others ready to take my place, right? And they will make sure that you get what you need to get done. We do have other avenues for sending that information out too. So depending on what the information is, we have different folks that can definitely help with that piece. Hopefully that helps answer some of your questions. Sir. You can take this mic.
No need, sir, I appreciate it. I'm gonna caveat on that. Good stuff. Whatever, Chris. Anyway, I just have a general question to that point. Everything that was presented today is based on 2024 data, 2024 payouts, 2024 budgets. I'm not gonna get too particular about the current political climate, but my question to that is, everything that you spoke to today about the systems in place. Now, I know you can't guarantee anything, sir, but my question is, do you have projections on what staffing and support mechanisms the VA plans to lose in 2025 through 2026 based on the evident cuts for staffing, research, development, all the things that have been presented? And I only bring this up because of our recent engagement with Senator Patty Murray and other people in the community. Not to put you on the spot,
Well, that's exactly what you're doing.
I know.
Let's just be honest on that, right? Don't BS around. I will tell you that I know probably about as much as you do. Right about that, since I don't have orders for anything on those lines, and I haven't heard of those particular pieces being cut in any particular area. That is all hyperbole and rumor mill, and that's where I need your help in controlling that sort of thing, right? As you heard from our WDDA, there's been no reductions in any of our services to date, right? So that's not 2024, this is April 2025, right? Just to set the record straight, right? And as you can see, we will go to whatever forum that we're invited to, right? Because we love to be able to talk to our constituents, and the feedback is invaluable. The feedback is what created that document. For example, to your point, that pamphlet that I showed you there, that is not a requirement by directive, policy, or regulation. So how did we do it? How did we do it? Strict question? Anybody? We listened. We took the feedback from our veteran population and said, you know what? It doesn't have to be in a regulation, policy, or directive in order to make sense to us if we can make it happen, which we ebb and flow resources across the table. I don't want to say the price tag for that pamphlet, but it wasn't $1, right? And it wasn't $1 billion. It was somewhere in between there. It was a lot of money, but it was worth the investment. At least we think so, right? So those are the decisions you see on the local level, what I positively can control. The stuff that happens outside of here, I have no comment on whatsoever. right? Because I don't have a position, I don't have a thought, I don't have a proposal or a projection, unless it's provided to me in a guide that says this is our goal for X, Y, and Z. Statutorial is the key word. Every benefit, statutory benefit, the idea is to provide that, no matter what. I think if anything with our system here in our discussion today, hopefully you're seeing, we're trying to project more to access, more to opening access, but also veteran engagement. Because without veteran engagement, I can't get the access to open to the point that I want it to be. I.e. vet text, answer the phone, you know, that sort of thing. These sorts of small things that we think are little are huge. So what can we affect in this room here is what I'd like us to focus on, right? What we can do as a community, what we can do as a veteran population, answer the vet text, be responsive, know the extended provider system for the personal scheduling is available. It's only available in a few places. We're one of the places that raised our hand, so we want this. So our vets could say, I have a PT appointment. Oh, perfect. That fits the EPS system, which has the provider schedule. I can schedule that myself at my convenience. Do you know how scheduling works in DoD? Anyone? You've been out of the military that long? I can tell you how it works. You're sent a letter, the end. You're on your own. Here's the phone number. Schedule your own appointment, right? Execute your own appointment and bring us the paperwork when it's done. It takes like one person. The VA does the entire thing soup to nuts, which is really what's actually hurting our access, right? We need to get to the point where folks have a lot more ownership of this process so they can make their own appointments. You guys know what your schedule is better than some VA clerk, right? Nobody should have to spend an hour on the phone, that sort of thing. This is a way to try to meet in the middle. So hopefully that some of that messaging is getting across. And if it's missing, we'll help fill in the bubbles. That answers some of your question, but probably not the one you wanted to have answered. I think. Anybody else on that piece? These are really good points, really good time. Hopefully we're scratching some itches. Anything for Heather, since she's on the road and racing to take care of her kids right now. You know, Heather came up to, where were we last? We're up north, right?
Yeah.
Bellingham, thank you so much. Great town, by the way, very competitive, right? Bellingham is a great town. She got a flat tire on the way to Bellingham. This is a VA employee, by the way. This is how we operate now. She fixed the tire by herself on the side of the road because no one would stop to help her. Poor, right? No veterans passed her, racing to get to the meeting, honking at her because she's in the way. She replaced her tire, fixed it, continued on with her mission, and presented at the meeting. That is VA employee staff. That is our team, right? Good luck finding that in the private sector. Good luck, right? These people care, their heart and soul, and I will stand in front of everybody and swear on staff that that's exactly what they'll do for you each and every day. Sir.
Who should I expect? Give me a call or email, fix these gaps that we have in Skagit.
It's gaps in Skagit County in what particular area?
So healthcare, so for example, we had a crisis line there, which is great.
Yeah.
The VA, we
Yeah.
had, but we didn't have, if the VA Bellingham Center got the call at the last minute, they couldn't come down and do assessments. So
Okay.
what we're missing is the stuff that Dr. Prudness talked about,
Yeah.
we're not in crisis yet. We didn't have anybody to help fill out healthcare documents. We didn't have anybody there to explain to them, hey, these are the different things that are available to you
Yeah.
before you get to crisis. And like I said, we had over 500 this time. We're
Yeah.
almost doubling
Yeah.
every year. And it just seems like that's a gap we keep getting into.
Yeah, well, part of the gap, Blue, is the WDVA for this particular piece, right? Because we actually share a lot of this, like also Dr. Pruitt here, who's here in person. He can help close up some of the gap of those pieces. Just understand that we're only a few scarce resources, right? But we'll get to all the places we can possibly get to. I try to make the military transaction ones, the 911 ones, whenever we can, we'll set up a table. It's just only so many folks, so many resources. For example, today often they actually scheduled my volunteer appreciation ceremony. It's going on right now. Right this minute. I can't physically be there because it's at Emerald Downs and someone's throwing some dice for me, right? I have 600 volunteers. You had 500 folks show up. I have 600 volunteers that I can't even thank for the great things they do, right? But they know they have it in spirit. I have like an assistant, somebody showing up, a pitch hitter. But it's not the same, right? Can't be at all places all the time, but we'll try our best. That's the only thing I can promise you. Hopefully that'll work for you, right? We do have a PAO, one person. Right? But we will try.
I think Jennifer and Jenna were both out at the event last weekend, right? So we had folks out there on the clinical side. We're happy to sort of connect you with folks on the more benefit side, visual side, try and get them out there and be present as well. So just let whoever from our team is gonna be there and we'll connect you as that sort of person.
It helps us too, it does help us too. And actually, when we invite our partners to our town halls, things like that we do, it's hugely beneficial, right? Especially the BDA in there, because I get a lot of questions that we just, that's tough. I don't know the answers to that stuff, but I don't want to say, I don't know the answer, good luck. So they're there and they're able to show it's great. We also have Christine Cothran on here. I see she showed up in the bottom on here. This is a Tri-West POC, right? For any questions, and she can also come out and be at those sites on occasion. She's in a team of one, but they're a wealth of information. So the further out advanced we can get, the better. But considering there's 14 counties, just gotta understand that sometimes we won't be able to make all events all the time.
Any other questions? Right there?
The Marine's taking his mic back. Okay.
I'm not gonna add that, that was too funny. Oh, late, sir. When we were doing our site visits last couple days, one of the biggest concerns that was brought to our attention truly was access, right? So for VA healthcare from the island to Seattle or to one of the CBOCs. I don't know if that individual's here today, but to address that right now, what are your thoughts, sir? We have a population of retired Navy, active duty, all these different components. But I feel that they're not being represented in the fact that their access to VA healthcare. And could you speak to that a little bit?
Okay. Oh, yeah, okay, the tyranny of distance, right? I mean, it's like as the crow flies, it's right here. As the ferry goes and the roads go, it's way around our network. Well, this is part of our efforts to collude with the Whidbey Island Air Station, right? I mean, like I said, VA's been here for a few minutes. When I say minutes, I mean 100 years. Right, small amount of time. Yeah, exactly. But we've always had veterans out here. We've just never been able to crack the code on how to address the needs. And we can't, like I was sharing with the gentleman here, we can't be all places. We can't be at the end of every driveway. So we have to be very, very good, very strategic about where we plant stuff. That's why we're trying to put that joint clinic option for the first time in its lifetime, right? In Island County with the Navy right there, right? With being able to capture that population. It is very challenging in the island community. There's just no ifs, ands, buts about it, right? That's also why we have a very robust community care network, which is why it's good to have Christine on here. She can answer some of those pieces. And then also collect information on what sort of services that are dearth, right, in the island community, because there's some services that we just don't have a lot of out here. We're just living in this rural location. It is difficult. I'm not gonna say otherwise, but also we know this in our own lives too, right? So when we're making decisions on where we live, we gotta be conscious of the fact that, hey, there's not a VA there on San Juans. So what are we going to do for healthcare? It is, at least there's authorizations in the system. At least there's a way to kind of do that didn't exist before. When my father was using the system, it didn't exist before, they exist today. Doesn't make up for all of it, but at least it starts to patchwork some of it, right? And it'll always be a continuing piece. I think the more we can get a foothold through either a joint clinic operation, the more we'll be able to advance the puck on this, because that will be huge. And we're hoping for sometime late summer to be able to say, yes, we're in business. Let's try this out. You know what I mean? And then as folks come, I think that'll be awesome. And they could be there for the transition meetings, things like that take place on Whidbey. That's really good stuff. It's never happened. Never. Right? So it's sort of like baby steps, I guess, for some, but I'd say it's monumental in terms of history.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you bet. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Anything else? No.
On the subject of things that are happening right now, I just remembered today's the last Wednesday of the month, fourth Wednesday of the month. And even if the VA hospital in Seattle is a long way away, on the fourth Wednesday of every month, they do an amazing class called Patient Orientation Class. Want to shout out, that's a really great thing to, yeah, do you wanna?
Yeah, let me hit on that. You see why we're a tag team? That's, I'm gonna wrestle this big guy at the end of the room, right? You and I. They do a great job. It's called patient orientation, I think, or new patient orientation. It is awesome. It's another program that is maybe about 18 months old. It's not very old. It's phenomenal. And everyone that goes there as a VA patient, whether they've been in the VA for 10 years or they're just starting out of the service and they want to know, the class instruction is amazing, right? It's 100% satisfaction. I don't have anything that's 100% satisfaction. I mean, it's just face it. I don't have anything that scores 100% except her class. It's that good. She's a nurse practitioner by trade and a high school teacher. And I'm paying attention. You know, my fingers are out, ready to get the ruler, right? She is that good. And her instruction covered the whole gamut. She can answer pretty much any question you have in your healthcare, continuum, how to address rural healthcare needs. Who can get an iPad? You know what I mean? How do appointments work? All the tough questions, right? She's answering them right there on that forum. It comes out, I think, like you're saying, the fourth Wednesday of the month, but also those come out in our newsletter, like the dates and things like that. So please pay attention to those. Hopefully, you guys are all getting that, the newsletter, quarterly newsletter? You're not getting it? No. We got to make sure you're getting it because it's based on your address in the VA system. So if you're not getting it, somebody might be getting your mail. I don't know. You're going to make sure. Do you get VA benefit mail, but you don't get that? We'll get that straight. This is what we need to hear, like, how is that happening? Because they base it off your DEERS and your VA address in the system. It goes out to, I think it's over 100,000 now, right, Pete? Over 100,000 people every quarter get this newsletter. We try to put those dates, in that actual newsletter as well too, to kind of educate the masses, mass communicate. This is where we ask for volunteers from our cemetery friends, right? And say, anybody want to help out with that? We got Mount Tahoma, like a dozen more folks. You do realize, you might not realize this. My dad was buried there about 18 months ago. They bury 9 people a day in Mount Tahoma, right? And volunteers do pretty much 90% of the work. That's why it's kind of near and dear to me, why I kind of feel kind of a lot bad about not being there today, you know what I mean? So I can kind of share with them some of my reflections, but this is why we have these meetings, and this is why we have to make the tough choices of where we need to be. Sir.
New patient orientation is also held in Silverdale on that side of the bridge in Mount Vernon.
Oh, that's great.
They have 2 months.
So when Mount Vernon does their schedule, it'd be great for Island County to get that information because it's a lot easier for them to get to Mount Vernon than.
But on the patient orientation,
yes.
Is there a virtual option?
I don't think there is a virtual option.
Not at this time, but they work the,
Yeah.
the logistics of it, but we have to develop a way to get.
Let's take that back, Pete, to see what we can still do on that piece. I think there was some bump in the road on that piece, but it is in person, I know right now, and it's pretty frequent as well.
Yes. I have 2 questions actually regarding the community care program. My experience with the community care program wasn't great, I have to tell you. When I first signed up with it, I was given a doctor I had to see for years, and I was quite happy with that. However, I have a condition that requires an annual brain MRI, just for surveillance. She sent in a request for that. It took 5 months for that authorization to come through. I'm an ER nurse. I've been an ER nurse for 30 years, and I've never seen anything take that long. So I found that very frustrating. I'm curious, my first question is, what is the average wait time for community care referrals to be approved and authorized? And the second is, with the new CBOC opening here at the base on Whidbey Island, is that going to affect eligibility for community care for those that live here?
So we're trying to answer the second one first, right? It depends if you're enrolled to them. Right, so if you're not enrolled to that clinic, I don't think it will change any of your eligibility pieces. If you're enrolled to it, it will, and it only changes it for as a referral. And as an ER nurse, you know how that works, right? We have Christine on the line. Christine, are you available? Did you hear that? Did you hear the question? She might not be able to speak, so I'm gonna try to pitch it for her because I want to keep her as a partner, right? See, work together. I will tell you, the answer is the same one I get in graduate school. It depends. Because it depends on what type of referral you're asking about, right? If you're asking for a brain MRI, that goes to a special neurologist, a different type of specialist. If you're asking for a derm, that goes to a different POC. If you're asking for women's health, mammography, it goes to that group, right? And each one of them has a different timeline based on the number of referrals that they get every day. So some might be same day, some might be 3 days, some might be 7 days. We have certain goals we're trying to meet for that, and we try to base staffing against those goals. But they're all different. And there are some things in a community that there's just not a lot of, right? And the wait time in the community is often a misnomer. People often think that it's less in the community than it is in the VA. 9 times out of 10, our charts show that it's longer in the community to get the same care that it is in the VA. And I know that's amazing. I also have a sleeper agent that works in the community that gives me this inside skinny, and it's my wife. Right? And she happens to also be a nurse practitioner. I'm not going to say where, because she'd kill me if I told anyone. And she also shares with me it takes 180 days to get a primary care appointment in the community. 180 days. Think about that, right? That's ridiculous. For us right now, it's over 40, and I'm not happy with that. So the objective is to get that down to 30 for new patients and 7 for established. So there is your kind of rough order of magnitude, but we look at this every time somebody calls us and says, I gotta have this appointment or whatever. We look at our system, hope find availability. We say, we can see you here in this amount of days, or you can try the committee in so many days. This is an advancement on how we've done it before. So that's a lot to your question, a lot of different answers, because there's a lot rolling around on that particular topic. But as I kind of go back to what we talked about before, please help us in this context by answering the vet text and this, that, because these are all ways we're trying to be faster about approving, accepting, scheduling, and getting referrals done.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think the problem that I ran into with that long delay was that I was told to wait 4 weeks and then call the community care team to ask about the referral. And repeatedly, they told me they didn't have the referral. I went back to my doctor and asked them to fax it to you every Monday.
Yeah.
And they said, we faxed it, they got it. We keep faxing it, they got it. And it kept getting lost in the system. And just for reference, I came up this year for my annual MRI, my brain MRI.
Yeah.
I saw my doctor 2 weeks ago through my Medicare provider 2 weeks ago. Had the MRI done on Saturday, got the results on Tuesday. So there was no big long delay for any of that. I think that the community care program, my experience was that it was just unworkable.
Yeah.
And that's what I find frustrating. It's hard for me to counsel veterans and say, yeah, hey, sign up for community care.
We don't actually sign up for the community care program. You have to be referred to community care. So let just correction.
That's true, but it still requires the veteran to say, hey, I'd like to be in the community.
Correct. I just don't want people to go away with thinking that they can sign up for VA care, because that's not how that works. We want to see you. If we can't, we use the community.
Okay, let's wind down and close this down. Thank you all very much for coming. I appreciate the American Legion on behalf of the VAC. Thank our VAC team members for their participation. We VAC want to thank our WDVA partners. They do a wonderful job, and all of our presenters. And I know a lot of you come from a long way, so thank you for your time. Without everybody in this room, this wouldn't have happened. And I'm going to turn it over now to our director for some closing comments.
We give Ron a big applause for NC. Thank you very much. So now we're going to thank our Veterans Affairs Advisory Committee and our Women's Veterans Affairs Advisory Committee for attending and participating today. And thank all of you. One comment that I do want to add when it comes to claims. Nationally, when I attend my meetings and when I talk to my peers across the US, we're starting to hear more of consultation. So consultants that are either reaching through social media or by phone or whatever it might be, asking that or sharing with you that they can help with claims and get you at 100% or anything like that. So, but keep in mind, those come with a fee. So they are charging a consultation fee to do that, and if you sign a contract. Again, I'm not an attorney, but then it becomes a contractual issue that you're working with a vendor. The reason I bring it up is I want you to be aware that we, as an agency, are the veteran service organizations, the county veterans organizations, tribal veterans organizations as well. And other that are accredited either through our state or nationally through DEA, do this at no cost. Again, it's at no cost. You should not pay a fee for filing your claim. And I just wanted to kind of share that as an awareness, because we're starting to hear and see a lot of that throughout the nation. So just a reminder, please come see one of us. We're glad to be able to help you. And yes, you can always go online and do it by yourself, but we're here to help you and kind of walk you through and guide you through that path. As we close, I wanted to ask Doug if he would come up, please.
So this is the agency certificate of appreciation to the American Legion. On behalf of your Washington State Department of Veterans Affairs and the Governor's Veterans Affairs Advisory Committee, would like to thank you. I'd like to thank the American Legion for your help in making the April 23rd, 2025 MAC Town Hall meeting a success. It is because of the commitment of our individual communities and organizations that Washington State is recognized as a leader for serving veterans. I want to thank you for your dedication in serving those who serve. Signed, David Puente, Jr., Director, and Solomon Gilbert, Jr., Deputy Director.
It was our pleasure.
Just asked if there were any Vietnam veterans here who've not received their 50th anniversary pin. Are there spouses? If there are any, would you come up right over here, and he's got some pins to present to you. Oh, we got them?
Yeah.
I carry mine.
Oh, you got yours, sir.
You know, it's ridiculous, right? You never know when you're gonna run into a Vietnam veteran. We have the honor of recognizing with the commemoration. Good spouse. Here. Bring that to my room. All right, here's your-
That's it. Thank you so much. Fill out your questionnaire if you're not having it, and you can also scan it and do it online. And to our people on Zoom, there's a link for you to fill out the questionnaire. Thank you, Bill, for attending today.